Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and members of the GBH Champions and Beacon Circles. These most generous annual contributors lead the way in sustaining GBH as a public media resource available and free to all. Learn more at gbh.org/support.
After 11 seasons of murder, mystery, and mayhem in the seemingly quiet village of Grantchester, how will everyone's favorite vicar-turned-detective say goodbye? Don't miss the series finale of Grantchester Sunday at 9 on GBH2.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, one of book lovers' favorite genres, books about books. For our annual August book special for Bookmark, the Under the Radar Book Club, 3 authors turn the pages on their works, centering bookstores and libraries. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Andrea Cabral, in for Jim Browdy. Ahead on BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL. As the Lindsay Clancy trial continues in court, it has us thinking about how we can do better in treating women for postpartum depression. Are you following the case? What's your take? Then, NBC 10 Boston's Sue O'Connell joins us from the Plymouth Superior Court, where she's covering the Clancy trial. We'll end Hour 1 with a news respite, Live Music Friday with the group Mango Blue.
I'm Juliette Kayyem, in for Marjorie Egan. In the second hour, it's naturalist and author Sy Montgomery on the phenomenon of Jimothy the raccoon, and we talk with 4th District Congressional candidate Jason Poulos. And we'll end the week with reviews. From ride shares to coffee orders, nearly every purchase comes with a prompt to share your thoughts. Why are we doing this? And will you please give us 5 stars? Weigh in next on BPR, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Hurst. Hamas is casting doubt on President Trump's claim that his Board of Peace reached a deal to completely disarm the militant group in Gaza. NPR's Frank Langfitt reports.
Trump said on his social media account that when militant groups in Gaza completely disarm, Israeli forces will withdraw from parts of the territory. But a Hamas official told NPR Israel must withdraw from parts of Gaza first before Hamas can move forward. Diana Boutou, a former Palestinian peace negotiator, is also skeptical. She noted that Trump has failed to halt Israel's continued killing of Palestinians during the ongoing ceasefire.
I think if he were truly interested in this peace plan, as he put it, then he would have made sure that Israel was stopped.
Israeli officials have expressed their own skepticism in local media, saying Israel would not take any action until Hamas disarms. Frank Langfitt, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The man who represented FIFA on the White House's World Cup task force has resigned in protest over the soccer organization's private equity plan. NPR's John Stolnis reports.
Senior FIFA advisor Carlos Cordero said in a statement he cannot stand by while his boss, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, plans to sell a stake in the World Cup to outside investors and urges others inside soccer's governing body to speak out. Infantino wants to sell stakes in the World Cup to investors that are anchored by Joshua Kushner, the brother of President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Cordero often joined Infantino on working visits to the White House in recent years. The official governing bodies of Europe and Asia have already voted to boycott all FIFA events until Infantino drops the idea. Critics worry outside investors will prioritize revenue over the integrity of the World Cup and bristle at Infantino's rollout of the plan. John Stolnis, NPR News.
Officials say cyber criminals hacked Minnesota's IT Services Department, threatening critical infrastructure across the state. NPR's Jenna McLaughlin reports there's still no word on who's behind it.
Between July 26th and 27th, hackers targeted more than 30 water and wastewater systems across Minnesota. Currently, there are no requests by local health officials to modify drinking water usage, but the investigation into the attacks is ongoing. The acting director of DHS's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Nick Anderson, tells NPR that they are aware of the potential incidents in Minnesota and are helping to provide support along with the EPA. While Anderson did not attribute the activity to any specific hacking group, he said in a statement that organizations should review a federal advisory published just days ago about Iranian hackers targeting technology used by water utilities. Jenna McLaughlin, NPR News.
Wall Street's trading higher at this hour. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has appointed a new interim chief of streets as the department contends with a slowdown of street projects and mounting criticism from transit advocates. Chris Osgood, who served as chief of streets under Mayor Marty Walsh, will once again lead the department in place of Nick Gove, who's returning to his former position as deputy chief of transportation. Mayor Wu also announced a new 8-person advisory council that'll work with Osgood to improve the city's so-called streets cabinet operations. The changes come along with Mayor Wu's recent pledge to make streets safer following the tragic death of the transit advocate and City Hall employee Louisa Gagg. And you've heard of the popular festival Coachella. Well, Boston is getting ready to host Ratchella. At least that's what I'm calling it. It's actually the second annual National Urban Rat Summit, and it's happening in September in Boston. Boston.gov says the summit will convene cities, academic researchers, and public health officials from across the country and around the world to advance practical and data-driven strategies to reduce urban rat populations. Ratchella takes place on September 23rd and 24th. For information, you can go to rats@boston.gov. Red Sox continue their West Coast swing tonight, opening a weekend series with the Angels. The Sox have won 20 of their last 24 games. Now, does this mean that we're in the hunt for Red Sox-tober? Let's hope so. Partly cloudy near 80 today, partly cloudy low 80s tomorrow, 75 right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include FJC, a foundation of donor-advised funds working to maximize the impact of charitable giving and to create customized philanthropic solutions. Learn more at fjc.org.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Jim Browdy today. She's Juliette Kayyem. She's in for Marjorie Egan. We're live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello, Juliette.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too. Long time no see.
I know.
I have a quick update from yesterday's show. The Massachusetts State Senate unanimously passed language on a so-called SHIELD law to protect journalists from being forced to reveal confidential sources. It passed it 40-0, which is a very rare vote for the Massachusetts Senate. It goes now to the conference committee, so it means the House and the Senate leaders are going to have to hash out something that they both agree on. They'll negotiate a final version of the wider public records-related package. So if you care about this issue, call your legislator, 617-722-2000. We actually reached out to Governor Healey's office to get her position on the bill. She told us, they told us that she'll review any legislation that reaches her desk, and she said specifically, quote, I support protections that would allow journalists to do their jobs without fear of intimidation or interference while preserving the public's right to know.
In about 25 minutes, we'll speak with NBC 10 media maven Sue O'Connell, zooming into the show live from where a lot of reporters are, Plymouth Superior Court, where Lindsay Clancy is on trial this week for the murder of her 3 children. We were a little torn about this story, given how complicated and difficult it is for so many of you. So we wanted right now to take the opportunity to bring all of you into the conversations we've been having around this case. Her defense team argues Clancy, who sought medical help for months, should not be held criminally responsible for her alleged actions while in the throes of a psychotic condition. For months after giving birth to her 3rd child, she struggled with postpartum depression and sought help from multiple providers. She was prescribed more than a dozen antipsychotic and antidepressant medications and expressed in a civil lawsuit against her nursing staff that she was not improving. Nobody stepped in to offer this woman the care she needed or to protect her children. Those facts are not in dispute. But prosecutors argue she was well aware of her actions. And as a society based on laws, we should not allow a woman to kill her 3 children without some form of punishment. This binary nature of our criminal legal system, our collective need for punishment, the shocking nature of the children's deaths, and the further harm these prosecutions cause, together with an understanding among women that medical dismissal isn't unique in today's society. The phone and text lines are open for all of you at 877-301-8970. How are you reacting to all that's brought up in this case? How can we all do better for mental health, for criminal prosecution, and beyond? What can we learn, if anything, from the Clancy case so as not to repeat it? 877-301-8970. Call or text.
Okay, Juliet. So, I think a good place for us to start, and I think this is where we'll probably also start with Sue O'Connell. What's her name? Abby Ruzicka has an excellent piece in the Globe. This is, as you say, is such a complicated case, and it touches on not just, as horrific as these murders were, not just the commission of the crime, but the way society deals generally with women's health, women's mental health, disparate resources allocated to even medical research around the impact of pregnancy on a woman's body, the impact of menopause on a woman's body, or menstruation on a woman's body. But it touches on fundamental notions of intent and trying to balance the heinousness of a crime against the mental status of the person who committed it. I have a lot of questions for Sue when she gets here, but Abby Ruzicka's piece is very nuanced.
Yes.
I've been focusing on the fact of the trial and what trials have become in this country, spectacles that are almost on a talk show level. Where
and
we're
like every
dissecting.
trial is Karen Reed, like every, and I think that's right. I mean, Abby's piece is in the Boston Globe for those who want to read it, and AB in Worcester text along the same lines. I really wish it wasn't televised, AB writes. I can't even begin to imagine the effect this is having on people who have struggled with suicide and depression. In this case, cameras in the courtroom are a huge disservice, and I wish it would stop. I think that's, that sort of sense of voyeurism of a tragedy that is, sort of beyond our consciousness, but is not, not clearly in black and white for a lot of us. I understand people have strong feelings on both the prosecutor side and the defense side, but I think for a lot of us, this is because we can't comprehend doing that to our children or that kind of a psychotic episode. We can't relate to the actions. This isn't those of us of a certain age will remember the Susan Smith case. She drowned her 2 children in a car. Well, it turns out she had a boyfriend who wanted to run away with her but didn't want to take the kids. This is a very different case about failed medical help, about people that were not recognizing the extent of her psychosis and her mental breakdown. Any of us who have, with my first child, I had postpartum depression, was nothing like this. I was able to get medicated, but you are in a dark place, and she went to the darkest of them. And I think this inability, I think it's, our society doesn't let us say, I don't know. The criminal justice system really does not let us say very well, I don't know. And this prosecution is going forward in a way that I think makes many of us uncomfortable.
But it's also bound up in very antiquated notions about what constitutes a good mother. I think clearly postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis are far, far more prevalent than people believe. And there's an expectation about the way people view motherhood. Mothers should give up their lives for their children at any point that is necessary. And the last thing mothers should want to do is harm their children. It certainly left out of that entire conversation is the responsibility of fathers to help and support mothers. That's far too often left out. But, I think if any good comes out of this case and the fact that it is televised minute by minute, I hope what it does is that it keeps the conversation going about where the focus needs to be. Mental health generally, because I'm going to talk to Sue about the case of Latasha Sanders, which is a distinctly different case. but handled by the Plymouth County DA's office in almost exactly the same way as they're handling the Lindsay Clancy case. I hope that it makes us talk more about that. I hope more funding dollars eventually follow that so we can figure this out.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, all of us have a relationship with, either personally or with friends who have suffered from mental health and postpartum depression or thoughts of self-harm or harm to their children. We want to let you know there is support available 24/7. You can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or contact the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline at 1-833-TLC Mama. There is also an organization called Postpartum Support Internal, PSI. They have a Massachusetts chapter. This friend who I was just telling you about, she says, if you talk about the Clancy case today in all caps, she says, please mention that it is detrimental to the future of women's perinatal, postpartum, and all the things in between to villainize a mom asking for help, and when that help includes meds. The whole prosecution circus is only setting us back. It's gross.
Yeah, we have another texter that says, I believe the husband bears some responsibility in terms of protecting his children. Another texter says, knowing how psychiatric medications are fraught with contradictions, I'm sad because this is a family issue that became sensational in the media. We have a texter that's asking if my voice is permanently damaged.
No.
It is not. I have a stiff right vocal cord that is working its way back to normal tone. So thank you for the question, I'm good.
I know, poor. I have felt bad for you in our promos. I was like, are you okay? But
no,
she is fine.
Hurt.
She's smiling. Listen, that number again is 877-301-8970 for the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline, as well as the Postpartum Support Internal, PSI, which has a local Massachusetts chapter. You are not alone, and we want to make that clear. Anonymous texter says, and I think this is right, because I probably made the mistake at the beginning talking about my own issues with our first child, this was not just postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Again, these facts are not in dispute. This was postpartum psychosis stated by several doctors. The texter says, I've been watching this very closely. Sorry for the all caps. I'm not yelling at you. No, but we get your point. Thank you.
Juliet, let me ask you this. Yours was depression.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you could talk to people about it? Because that seems to me to be part of the never-ending loop. You feel, if you're feeling worthless, you're feeling like you're not a good mother. If you admit to someone that you're feeling that way, it only exacerbates the way that you're feeling. Did you feel that you could say it out loud?
Yes, I think it's interesting that this was her third child rather than the first and second, because I think it sounds like she had very healthy, easy postpartum periods after the first and second. She then has a third, and everything deteriorates. Right. So she may not have been recognizing sort of how off or how unique this was. But look, I mean, some cultures and communities are used to therapy, are used to a lot going on. My first was born 5 weeks before 9/11. So I was experiencing that, and then professionally and personally and nationally and internationally what happened on September 11th, 2001. So I wasn't alone in my dark period. And look, I mean, medications do help, but I do think, some of it depends on what your community is like. Are they used to therapy, or are you just used to talking it through? And it looks like she was very willing. Again, these facts are not in dispute. She was very willing to get help, and she wanted help, and she was expressing that what they were doing to help her was not working, and then probably thought, at least if this is a psychotic episode, then she does the most horrendous thing. I mean, some of us, you just kind of don't want to look, and yet you also are angry about everything that's going on around this trial.
The number to call is 877-301-8970. You can call us or text us. One of our texters is weighing in favor of it being televised. The texter says that they're glad that it's televised. It goes more in depth with regard to explaining a real-life illness and how the courts are way behind in dealing with it because our society blames everyone depending on what we project from our life experience. being objective seems to be old-fashioned. And I really do get that. I mean, we instruct jurors to be objective, knowing full well that if, you'd be like Diogenes trying to find an honest man with a lamp to find a single objective person in 2026.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I made a mistake. PSI is Postpartum Support International with the Massachusetts chapter. So I want to clarify that. But I think that's what we're all struggling with, is sort of the sort of looking at the court case, getting this is what Abby Ruzicka wrote about in the Boston Globe. You get these alerts like this person said that or whatever, which is not giving you the context of the situation she was in. Once again, these facts are not in dispute. This is, the depths of her depression were real.
Tricia in Beverly, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for talking about this. I think it's absolutely criminal what they're doing to this poor woman who is already suffering.
Oh, did we lose Tricia?
Oh, hello?
Hi. You were just cutting out a little bit.
Oh, sorry, I'm driving. But I was saying that it's what the prosecutor is saying about this woman was being fascist.
We lost Tricia, but she was talking about what we were talking about, which is you can experience postpartum not with every child. It is not an on-off switch. So, Lori, we're going to go to you now, and hopefully we can hear you.
And if Tricia can call back, that would be great. If you get someplace where you have better reception, Tricia, she was driving. Hi, Lori.
Hello. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
I had this experience, and here's what I wonder. My 6 week, I think it's 6 weeks or 4 weeks, you go back to the obstetrician. Yes. I was obviously badly depressed. It was on my face. It was in my flat voice. And she pokes around your stomach and she says, oh, good, everything's fine. And I wasn't sort of aware of what was happening yet. And I walked out, and I walked down the hall, and another of the obstetricians said, hi, how are you doing? And I said, well, okay. But he noticed. I'm wondering what part this could play if these obstetricians were more trained to look and see. Or
Lori,
maybe they are playing a role, so I don't know.
Lori, that is an excellent suggestion. And the analogy I would make is what we do with domestic violence. There was a time when doctors would ignore, they'd treat injuries, but possibly ignore where those injuries were coming from or how they were being caused. That is no longer the case. You now have, as part of regular questionnaires, when you go to see your primary care physician and other physicians, you are asked about safety in the home and whether or not you feel safe. When you go into a private bathroom to leave a urine sample, there are stickers, at least there are I go to Tufts. Yeah. There are stickers that say, if you are in danger, put this sticker on the cup. And so if you're there with your batterer, they never know that you're reaching out for help. I mean, what Lori's talking about is the way we deal with postpartum issues needs to evolve the way we now deal with domestic violence.
And your experience with your OB as sort of treating the where you are mentally as part of the physical recuperation from a very traumatic thing, which is childbirth, whichever way you have childbirth. Sue O'Connell, who you're going to hear from next, says she did have a difficult birth with one of them and reported to have had depression with another birth, but nothing like obviously what she experienced after the birth of the third child.
And thank you, Lori, for your call. Yeah. I thought we had somebody. I thought we had another call coming in. There's Mo in Andover, I think speaks for a lot of people when they say, what a sad and horrific situation. I cannot imagine any punishment harsher than having to live with what she did. And I hope she is finally able to get the help she so desperately tried to get before it got to this point. I think, regardless of whether or not people feel like there should be a carceral sentence that doesn't involve a psychiatric hospital or a finding of guilt, I think everybody feels the way Mo in Andover feels.
Yeah, I think, and we'll talk to Sue about why are we here? How could there not have been a resolution before we were in court? I think we have one more caller.
We do. Karen, which one do you want to go to?
Karen's the last call. Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay. We're waiting to sort of tie in with those folks. Jeff in Andover says, actually asked a question. He says, since Massachusetts does not have a death penalty, could you please describe why she would be seeking not guilty by reason of insanity? Wouldn't she spend the rest of her life in prison either way? And would a prison for the criminally insane be that much nicer or easier? I think not guilty by reason of insanity, Jeff, is an affirmative defense. It shifts the burden to the prosecutor to affirmatively prove sanity, because the standard is, did you understand the lawfulness of your conduct or the unlawfulness of your conduct? Were you able to conform your conduct to the requirements of the law? So I don't think it's really sort of about the death penalty, but I think not guilty by reason of insanity, and Jim makes the point that we should have a guilty but insane finding, means that you literally are not guilty. And even if you spend your life in a psychiatric hospital, that is not the same as a prison sentence. You are regularly evaluated when you're in a psychiatric hospital to determine whether or not you have made a return to sanity or could conform your conduct going forward to the requirements of the law. So I think that there are fundamental differences. A psychiatric hospital is not a prison.
We're going to go to Aisha, who is in her car. She's a family medicine doctor and has some thoughts about the training issues that we've been talking about.
Hi, Aisha.
Hi. I'm a family medicine doctor, which means we get trained in prenatal OB, so we do deliveries as well as postpartum visits. And there really has been a shift in medicine. Postpartum depression is very important as part of our training to try to catch that early. So what we do is we try to screen very early on, sometimes during delivery, after delivery, to see how mom's mood is. We have validated tools and scales that we use, such as the Edinburgh Postpartum Depression Scale. We can do a PHQ-9 to figure out how mom and father of baby are doing, how can we support them, and to catch it early. There's also been changes in the way we prescribe and treat postpartum depression. So it's very important.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, each of these cases makes it clear that these visits, you're seeing something, someone's seeing something. I remember my third child was colicky, so nothing like this. I had no impact except for lack of sleep. And I used to walk him up and down in a crib, up and down Mass Ave, and my physical well-being was deteriorating for lack of sleep. And I remember a pizza store owner came out. He goes, I see you every night, and you're looking a little bit off. Are you okay? And I thought that was the nice thing. I was fine. I was sleep deprived. But for even a neighbor or a store owner recognized that I was being impacted by this birth. We are going to move to Paul in Jamaica Plain. Nope, I'm sorry.
But before we do that, I just want to say, if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, postpartum depression, thoughts of self-harm, there is support available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or contact the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline at 1-833-TLC-MAMA. And to your point, even if you're not a professional, and you see someone who looks like they're in distress, just ask them how they are, because it's unbelievable how much even that much can help.
Okay, well, we do have to move on. We will talk more directly about the case itself, but obviously we couldn't get to everyone. We want to thank everyone for coming to us to discuss this difficult issue. Again, there are a number of resources: the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline, Postpartum Support International, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, if you are having these thoughts.
We're out of time, but thank you. After this quick break, media maven Sue O'Connell is going to zoom in to discuss her observations about the Lindsay Clancy trial. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. She's Juliette Kayyem. She's in for Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. We're live from the BPL, and we're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
The countdown is on. 2 Democrats, 2 visions, 1 high-stakes race for the U.S. Senate. Senator Ed Markey, U.S. Representative Seth Moulton. Hear them go head-to-head on the issues that matter most. Don't miss the Massachusetts Democratic primary debate, hosted by GBH News and Boston 25 News. Monday night at 7, live on GBH 89.7, on GBH2, and in Spanish on El Planeta.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Boston Ski and Tennis, offering indoor skiing and snowboarding this summer with Boston Metro's only immersive simulator experience. Available in the Newton location. Learn more online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, presenting concerts at Tanglewood all summer long. Highlights include the BSO and Pops, classical soloists, and the Popular Artist Series. More at tanglewood.org.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Juliette Kayyem, in for Jim Browdy. She's Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. We are live from a very full house at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com GBH News. We're joined now on Zoom by media maven Sue O'Connell. She's a courtroom insider for Commonwealth Confidential, the Lindsay Clancy trial on NBC 10, and Haley Jackson Now on the NBC News Now streaming app Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Good day, Sue.
Hi,
Hello,
Sue. Guys. How are you?
Good.
To hear you. I'm sorry I'm caught in a little bit of traffic. I'm going to pull over so I can maybe turn my camera on. But thanks for having me.
Oh, good. We want to make sure that we can hear you. We know you've been in the courtroom.
Apparently, Plymouth is on the Cape, and it's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may never be heard from again if you stay down there long enough. So, Sue, I have a lot of questions, and I'm just looking now at getting a chance to look at how many people texted in for the caller segment, and people feel very, very strongly one way or the other about this case. It's engendered, sort of a lot of reaction. But I want to start someplace a little bit different. Since there was never, as we understand it, an offer for a plea deal. I don't think the prosecution ever offered Lindsay Clancy a plea deal, but Kevin Reddington did offer to stipulate to guilt, essentially, and just have the only issue be whether or not she had an insanity defense. What do you think the impact would have been had Reddington chose to go just before a judge and not a jury, the way had that happened in the Fitzgerald case, the police officer that was accused of shooting a fellow police officer? What do you think that impact would have been, and why do you think he didn't just go before a judge if the issue of guilt is a non-issue?
Well, I think because, as you guys have been talking about, the evidence, and again, this is evidence. It's not. People are agreeing to this. This is not in dispute. The amount of help that she sought. And I heard earlier someone, text in or call saying, her husband should be responsible. He was very responsible. He was very involved in her care. He worked from home. He cared for the 3 children. This is a nuclear family unit that you might have had from the 1950s, right? Yeah. With all the insurance, all the help, all the concern that you would possibly. So I haven't asked Reddington about this directly, but my expectation is that he not only wants to have his client treated guilty, but also wants to raise the awareness of how a family like this, right, a white, not affluent, but middle class family with support, ends up in this horrendous situation. So I think that might have been part of the argument that she's making.
And I think, we have not mentioned that she is actually also paralyzed, but Boston Globe had on their Instagram page, just to give a sense of sort of their knowledge that she was not getting cured. This is what Lindsay Clancy was prescribed in the months before her children's killings. September 2022, Zoloft. October 2022, Ativan. October, same year, Benadryl. October, same year, Ativan. October, same year, Busaprone. November 2nd, 2022, Ativan. These are the prescriptions right before she killed her children. It goes on to list these. So she was trying to get help. And how much is that? So, I mean, you're there with a sort of, for us, for sort of like, what is the vibe in the room? And in particular, with reporters, a lot of them who cover crime, a lot of them who've covered salacious crimes, Karen Reed, for example, this has got to feel different in the room.
It is possibly one of the most heartbreaking, if not the most heartbreaking case some of even the most veteran crime reporters have covered. And again, I think part of it is also the admitted facts. So there's no argument over the investigation. There's no argument over whether she did or didn't do it. And that 911 call is something I will never forget hearing. And as much as I'm always critical about how untransparent our state is, Massachusetts is one of the worst for government transparency. I agree with Judge Sullivan's ruling to keep that 911 call just in the courtroom. And it is just a horrific, there's not enough adverbs and adjectives to describe it. And the weight of this is definitely on the faces of the jury. There are 18, there will be 12 after closing arguments, 12 women, 6 men, and the looks on their faces as to how seriously they are taking this job and enduring this evidence and enduring the repeated detailing of the children's deaths and the pictures and the 911 calls. It is really just an incredibly heavy and terrible situation.
And it is. It's what we call upon ordinary citizens to do. This is an excellent example of that. But Sue, the other night on NBC 10, I think you and Glenn Jones and Priscilla Casper, and I think you were on. You might have been on with Peter Ellikin, but it might have been Attorney Coyne. You also, the Latasha Sanders case was brought up. And I just want you to give a little quick comparison here, because Latasha Sanders, who also killed her 2 sons, she stabbed them. It was not an allegation that it was postpartum psychosis, but schizophrenia and severe mental illness. Was also prosecuted by the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office, and the prosecutor in that case actually not only successfully kept her much of her mental condition from the jury, but characterized her as evil. Their theory of the case was that she did this because she was evil. Can you give us some idea about the way the DA's office is handling the Clancy case under the glaring light of how they handled Latasha Saunders?
Yeah, and I'll direct folks to the great Yvonne Abraham's coverage of this in the Boston Globe. She did a multi-part series on it. Definitely read it. There's a couple of main differences in these cases. There's the obvious difference that one is African American and one is white. One is living in the city. One is living in Duxbury. But the biggest glaring difference is that Latasha did not seek mental health care. And in fact, according to Yvonne's reporting, didn't trust psychiatry, didn't trust mental health treatment. And it seems she had one medication, but it could have been given to her by a primary care doctor. And it's clear by Yvonne's reporting, she had been struggling with mental illness her entire life, but was never treated. So, and you guys, especially you, can definitely, Andrea, I talk to defense attorneys and I say, how many of your clients do you think if they had mental health treatment would be able to make an insanity defense? And they go, about 80% of them, right? They're untreated, and that's partially what leads to crime. So in her case, her mental health situation wasn't documented. There was no medical record.
Right.
So they did not let it in. I will say the parallel here, though, is that this prosecution is acting as if Lindsay Clancy, her suicide attempt, where she took drugs to try and poison herself, then she tried to slit her wrists and her neck, and then she jumped out a window. They're saying that this was just to avoid responsibility for killing her children.
Right.
Had she actually been successful at killing herself at any one of these tries, we would be having a different situation, saying she was definitely mentally ill. So the approach to both of these defendants, which I understand. I mean, I don't believe in evil, because I think when we say somebody did something because they're evil, it relieves all of us of any shared responsibility we have about the society we've created or what we make available to them. But, you know, characterizing this mother as evil when she was clearly mentally ill and clearly didn't have access to the treatment, and then, you know, classifying Lindsay Clancy as a fake suicide attempt, those are Tevin Reddington's words, but definitely that's what the prosecution is doing, I think is setting back, you know, mental health treatment for women for a very long time, because I'm sorry she wasn't successful in killing herself.
That's what a lot of texts I was getting when I reached out to girlfriends who I knew had suffered tremendously. So can you help us with the prosecution's sort of theory of the case? Because obviously obviously you just heard from the texts and the phone calls and what you're hearing in the courtroom and the gravity of the situation. This seems, just a very aggressive, likely to backfire in the court of public opinion approach to a very difficult issue. What is going on there?
Well, that's a good question, Juliet. We're only 1 week in, so I want to be fair here. You know, they haven't presented everything, but from their opening statements, they appear to be trying to say that Lindsay Clancy didn't want her life anymore, that she no longer wanted her 3 children and her husband living in Duxbury. She was, of course, a nurse, and so she decided to kill her children so she could get a new life, and then, of course, tried to pretend to kill herself so she would have cover. There has been no evidence at all introduced that she was seeking a different life, and she is definitely a type A woman. She's the type of person who kept really detailed instructions for the babysitters and the nannies, including nap time, down to the second, and the prosecutors are trying to project that as evidence of guilt. And the mummy sphere, even people who don't have an opinion on whether she should be guilty or not guilty, are getting really outraged at how, you know, again, being a mother who's trying to manage your 3 children is suddenly suspect. She also had books about intrusive thoughts and postpartum. She sought help in many ways, and this is being used against her. There's no narrative here. We haven't seen any evidence that she was seeking a different life, like the other case you were talking about. There's no boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's no, I want to go somewhere. Yeah. All she did was seek mental health help and ask her husband for help, who provided it for her. So I do think, to your earlier question, Andrea, that I think the DA was in a box here where they had to charge her with this because they had charged the other woman with this, and it would have been seen as racist in some way that there was a different standard. But I would argue the standard is just wrong.
Yeah.
So, Sue, you are our media maven. The last question we'll ask is about and this is, it's everybody's sort of bread and butter to some degree, the way we cover these trials. Jurors are always instructed. The reason why we don't allow them to deliberate or discuss the case before it is given to them after final arguments and before they're instructed is because they are to see the evidence as a whole, not in any one part. But we actually, as we're doing today, and as you'll do on NBC 10 Boston and others will do, we dissect what happens in the courtroom every single day, and we sort of have opinions about it, which we then make public. What do you think about that? And how do you, as an individual, sort of balance that? I know you're very careful to say, it's only a weekend and so on. How do you deal with that as a media person?
Yeah, so I love Abby to death and worked with Abby, but I took some exception to her piece in the Globe because she didn't ask us what we were doing, right, or how we were covering it. She just kind of gave us instructions, and I feel pretty confident speaking for my colleagues over at BZ and HDH and Fox 25 and all of it. We have taken the approach to this case extremely serious. Our most senior management is making sure what we put on the air on NECN, we're not streaming it on NBC 10, is is watched carefully, so we're not just putting it out there. We have mental health counseling available for our reporters covering it. We have our most seasoned people on it, and we are making sure we are balancing our coverage with mental health experts. We've had several guests on. J.C. Monahan, our anchor, who's the co-host of Commonwealth Confidential, also does a lot of mental health podcasts. So she's had guests on talking about the mental health aspect of this. So we have approached this case in a very, very different way than the general case that we have done in the past. Yeah. Not counting Karen Reed, because that's an anomaly. So we are very careful about covering the 911 case call. We are cognizant that these 3 children were murdered. We understand the trauma this has caused the community, and we are covering this in the most careful way that we can. And I think, and I'm seeing it on the other stations as well and talking to my colleagues, this could be a model for how those of us who still have gatekeepers, right, those of us who have editors, those of us who have ethics, and we're not just out in the YouTube burst or the TikTok burst saying whatever we think and without any factual basis. I think the way that we are covering this could become the model for how to cover cases like this in the future. So I'm very thoughtful that it's up to the jury and it's up to the evidence presented in the courtroom. And at the same time, even if they find her guilty, there's a big conversation that we need to continue to have, because the prosecution is misrepresenting, I think, how you take pharmaceuticals and medicines for mental health. You can have a number of different prescriptions. You don't have to finish them all. Some of them have incredibly bad side effects. You can say, oh, a side effect is salivate, right? Excessive salivation. And then you wake up covered in your own spit in the middle of the night, because that's what that means. So we don't know why you did or didn't take it to bed.
Sue, on that pleasant note, I have to interrupt you. Being covered with one's own saliva. We got to go. We've been speaking with Sue O'Connell. Thank you, Sue. Media maven, courtroom insider for Commonwealth Confidential, the Lindsay Clancy trial on NBC 10 Boston, and Hallie Jackson Now on NBC News Now streaming app. They're on Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you, Sue. Coming up after this quick break, a well-deserved live Music Friday break, which we could all use with the jazz Latin fusion band Mango Blue. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. She's Juliet Kayyem in for Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM Live. We're from the BPL, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, BTS boycotts the Grammys, refusing to submit their comeback album after the awards create a separate Asian pop category. And on Nantucket, a shop's No Influencers sign turns a summer retail rule into a wider fight over cameras, clout, and island life. Plus, famed chef Barbara Lynch is aiming for a culinary comeback. We'll take on that and more on our Week in Review today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union. Banking built on innovation. Guided by real people. Memberships open to the public. More at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA. And Burton's Grill & Bar, featuring a scratch kitchen where each dish is customizable for those with food allergies or restrictions. A gluten-free menu is also available. Details on their allergy protocols at burtonsgrill.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Juliet Kayyem in for Jim Browdy. She's Andrea Cabral in for Marjorie Egan. We are live from a very crowded Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I take it a lot of you are here for Live Music Friday. Today's guest, the well-known Mango Blue, are visiting us again ahead of their benefit show at Long Live Roxbury to raise funds for the aftermath of the earthquake in Venezuela. They're performing tomorrow. It's free. LongLiveBeerWorks.com. Never thought I would say that out loud. LongLiveBeerWorks.com for more info. Mango Blue is a Latin jazz fusion ensemble led by Alex Alvarar, an Ecuadorian composer, bassist, and singer, and a Berkeley grad. Band members come from all over the world, including Venezuela, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Ecuador, and the United States. In a moment, we'll speak with Alex as well as band member Gonzalo Grau. You're gonna fix that if I got it wrong because I wrote it out here from Venezuela. But first, let's let the music speak for itself. I was dancing earlier.
Sabe lo que pasa, tanta locura, ¿dónde irá a parar? Nuestra ambición sigue mordiendo esa mano que nos alimenta. Vaya, se matan entre hermanos, vaca por diferencia de color. Que no aprendamos del pasado y de sus enseñanzas. Guerra y polución envenenan nuestro planeta. Violencia y maldad el orden del día son. Qué pena me da. Lo que yo no puedo explicarme es porque la humanidad echa un paso para adelante y dos para atrás. Esta situación no se arregla si no hay conciencia. La revolución debe ser en el corazón. Te digo que yo te traigo mi rumba de esperanza y de realidad, pa' que bailes pensando en que vendrá. Baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Baila la hora pensando, oye, siempre con conciencia. Baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Quiero consejo de amigo, consejo de solero, pa' que tú siempre baile conmigo. Baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Y seguiré bailando para gozar. Baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Baila la hora, baila con conciencia. Baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Piensa que todas las cosas son posibles, mientras tú de pa'lante, mi pana, tú baila la hora, porque la vida no espera. Y seguiré cantando para gozar.
Woo!
That was,
I think you're going to come up here.
Yeah. That was
Come
Mango
on.
Blue. They were performing, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Algún Día. And later on, they're going to perform a song called Vaya con Dios. And as they're joining
That was
us,
so terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing. I just have to say, jazz is just a unique sort of melange of a lot of different experiences and a lot of different music. But fusion, I don't know of any other genre of music or type of music that combines as many influences and music from different cultures as jazz fusion does. And does it seamlessly. I mean, it's amazing. So I want to jump into the music with you. The first question, though, I have to ask you, Alex, is you were here in 2024. That was the last time we interviewed you. You've been very busy since then. What have you been doing?
Well, I've been recording. I put out 2 productions last year. I'm working on a new one, and just doing a lot of collaborations and productions with fellow musicians back in Ecuador.
It's very nice to have you back. And Gonzalo, you as well. You are tremendously busy. Just give us a little quick catch-up.
Well, I'm just writing lots of music for different formats, a lot of stuff for symphonic orchestra. I've been arranging and producing for many different artists. Very, very busy. Very, very busy.
And with the BSO, don't you have something with
the BSO? I did something for the BSO. I am working actually on a new commission for the New York Philharmonic, Gustavo Dudamel, and doing other things. But anytime that I get to play with Alex and Mango, it's fantastic.
Can you also introduce your third member of the team?
He's a celebrity here in the New England, and I think in the Latino music scene, he's one of the top 5 soneros. Great composer, percussionist, Manolo Mairena, the one and only from Costa Rica.
Yay! One of my favorite places. Gonzalo, you are also here to show, well, all of you are here to, in this world of so much bad stuff happening, to remind us that there was a major earthquake, or a double earthquake, in Venezuela. So I want to, first of all, how are your people? And what are you doing to what can be done to help in terms of recovery?
Me in particular, I guess I was very lucky because we're all good in let's say my family, my close relatives, they are all okay. But yeah, I was in Venezuela when this happened, and you cannot imagine the level of devastation that we are going through right now. I mean, we're talking about an area that you got completely devastated. We're talking about, they say that it's close to 200 buildings collapsing all at the same time, and we still don't know the exact numbers of what happened there. But it's brutal. I mean, you never imagine anything like this happened in just 1 minute.
I had missed. You were actually there during the earthquake.
Yeah. I was there, and it was insane, really. I mean, you can never imagine something like this happen.
Music and musicians never fail to jump in when catastrophes happen. I mean, we have a very long history globally of music jumping in to help and to raise money. Can you talk a little bit, Alex, about how what you're doing now is going to help? And you can feel free to jump in, Gonzalo. And the larger efforts you see around this, musicians around the world trying to step in, especially when there are some countries like the United States that maybe aren't sending the amount of aid that we once did. We seem to have stopped doing that to the degree we used to.
Well, I think it's in a way beautiful and a little sad that the humanity, the reaction to tragedy, the first thing that comes to many people's mind is solidarity. How can I help? We artists are used to doing this because sometimes you're in a place where artists are not insured or don't have problems. So every time there's a worthy cause, we're really the first ones there to help. But I think in the case of Venezuela, it transcends musicians because back in Ecuador, people from the community started to do fundraisers to help out. And we've lived through many crises, and that's when people start to jump in to help out the neighbors and everything. So I think it's encouraging to see the level of response from other places. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, despite all the oil that's coming from there, the aid that Venezuela deserves is not getting there.
Right.
Yeah. Right. What is Tell us a little bit about like what jazz fusion is to you. I know I spent a lot of time in Rhode Island. The Newport Jazz Festival is this weekend as well, which like jazz is pretty broadly defined. I mean, when you look at these lineups, you're like, you know, what does it mean, the kind of music that you're playing?
Well, if we learn something from the jazz school is that anything goes.
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, it started with a very clear parameters of a style, a way of playing. But little by little, the Cuban influence in New York jazz was great. And that just opened the door to many concoctions that come from intercultural exchange. And nowadays, jazz festivals will have a percentage of straight ahead, 100% jazz. But the programming is world music. And because for me, jazz doesn't necessarily have to be swing or bebop. It's whenever there's an element of improvisation, then it just feeds into that. And things have been happening for a couple of decades, and it's going to continue to happen. Music has no boundaries, and when things click, magic happens.
Yeah. I absolutely love musicians. My father played bass. I picked out the bass line immediately as you were playing. But Gonzalo, talk about that cultural exchange, because musicians speak to one another in their own language, and then they take, especially when they collaborate, they take that and they translate it to the rest of us. Jazz is one of those music forms that speaks to everyone. So talk a little bit about the cultural exchange you have with other musicians, and then how you sort of figure out how to translate it so we internalize it the way you feel it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's actually one of the, I guess, most beautiful things we musicians have, that we don't necessarily, sometimes it's happened to us that we don't necessarily not even know the name of the person that we're playing with, and we are kind of like getting to know the people as we play, and we share this common vocabulary, and by the end, that, you know, when we finish playing, hey, but what's your name again?
Right. I'm going to be the baddie here because we want to hear you play, and we have a hard stop. So come on back.
Oh, okay.
And,
I'm sorry,
and
that was my fault for asking such a long question.
We'll let the music play speak for you as well. Thank you so much, and here we go.
No, they're getting ready to go.
Good. Mango Blue, back.
But it is so true, Juliet, as they're setting up, it is so true that they are such ambassadors for so much cultural exchange that they don't get enough credit for, in my view.
No, we're grateful for it. Okay, take us to the end.
This is a pocket version of Mango Blue. We're actually 8 people, but it sounds great, only 3, right? Siempre imaginé que nunca llegaría el fin a nuestra historia, que seríamos 2 viejos de la mano rumbo a la memoria. Me dijiste adiós sin sospechar el gran dolor que me causaba. Una puñalada al corazón cuando yo menos lo esperaba. En vano te busco al despertar, solo encuentro el ruido de la calle. El vecino besa a su mujer pa' irse a trabajar. Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás que un amor tan grande como el mío no lo encontrarás jamás.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás que un amor tan grande como el mío no lo encontrarás jamás.
Aunque todavía tengo sed de tu calor y tu mirada, no puedo más que aceptar que de lo nuestro ya no queda nada.
Quedo convencido que con este adiós los dos hemos perdido. Yo perdí mi gran amor y tú perdiste a quien más te ha querido. Lucho con tu ausencia al despertar. Tu recuerdo entra por la ventana. Pienso en todos esos besos que te di para irme a trabajar. Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás que un amor tan grande como el mío no lo encontrarás jamás.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás que un amor tan grande como el mío no lo encontrarás jamás. Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás.
Algún día tú recordarás, algún día comprenderás.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás.
Nadie sabe lo que tiene hasta que llegue el día en que todo lo pierde.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás.
Yo perdí mi gran amor y tú perdiste a quien más te ha querido.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás.
Cuando te quedes solita, lonely, 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 lonely time.
Algún día recordarás, algún día comprenderás que un amor tan grande como el mío no lo encontrarás jamás.
Woo! Beautiful. We have been listening to music from Mango Blue. That was them performing Vaya con Dios. You can catch them tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Long Live Roxbury for their free show. Go to longlivebeerworks.com for more info. Thank you, guys. We say goodbye to our friends listening on NEPM, but make sure to tune in to the fabulous 413, which starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The show continues here in Boston. Coming up after this quick break, naturalist and author, pride of Hancock, New Hampshire, Sy Montgomery, zooms into the show so we can finally talk about Jimothy the raccoon. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. She's Juliet Kayyem. She's in for Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This summer, you can clear out the clutter when you donate your used car, truck, or boat to GBH. It's easy to do, and it supports the journalism you trust. Learn more at gbh.org/vehicle donation.
Funding for our programs comes from you
and the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, committed to simplifying college planning for families over 45 years with trusted guidance, interactive tools, step-by-step videos, and more. MEFA.org. And Cambridge Trust, a division of Eastern Bank, dedicated to helping individuals and businesses pursue their financial goals with a full range of banking and wealth management services. Learn more at cambridgetrust.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to hour number 2 of BPR on 89.7 GBH. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Jim Browdy. She is Juliet Kayyem. She's in for Marjorie Egan. We're live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Juliet.
Hi, great to be here. We're joined now on Zoom by Sy Montgomery, naturalist and author, the pride of Hancock, New Hampshire. Her latest book is The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. I have often thought that. Hi, Sy, you there?
I'm here.
I'm so glad to see you again.
Good to see you. So we are going to start off with Jimothy the raccoon. And I just have to say, every time I see a story about Jimothy, I just think, could you just please leave this poor raccoon?
I mean, God bless him. He's
Right.
a sweet little raccoon who has some kind of spinal deformity. And this particular kind of deformity you can often see in dogs, in which it looks like they have no neck, their spine is shortened, his tail is not visible, when usually in a raccoon, your tail is your pride and joy, but it looks like, where's his tail? And it makes his limbs look really long. So he became a viral sensation July 14 when somebody posted this. You know, this guy has a medical condition. He has a birth defect. But I like it that people are rooting for this underdog or under raccoon. Because look, he has survived despite this problem. And I think that is great for us. I was shocked to see that like 16% of humans have some kind of disability.
Yeah.
And when you see, and you know, I have a lot of friends who use wheelchairs, or they're blind, or they're deaf, and one person's blind and deaf, and they get along fine. And I think when we see somebody with a disability like he has, it's almost not a disability, because most raccoons don't make it out of cubhood.
Yeah.
Usually, a male raccoon comes to your den and kills half of the babies before they.
Oh my, yeah.
We didn't. We didn't know that. But I'm so glad you say that. Sort of, you know, not to make too much out of Jimothy, but this idea that. We're sort of rooting for them, but also that his survival is a sign of mammals or entities or animals with disabilities do just fine. And I had not thought that that's sort of what we're rooting for. But my understanding, sadly, is that, you know, we shouldn't get too attached either. That as a phenom, Jimothy, may not be around long for the nature of the lifespan of a raccoon.
Yeah, I was really surprised too. I know that in captivity they can live to be 20.
Oh wow!
But
in the wild, not so much.
Because of in the wild it's cars and it's dogs and sometimes disease that. The figure that was in the story was 2 to 3 years, but that included the fact that half of all litters just never make it out of the den. But I've seen lots of really lovely stories about animals, wild animals, who have a significant disability and who live just fine. Yeah. Years ago, did you ever see that movie called Mozu? About the paralyzed snow monkey in Japan?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's the most wonderful thing.
It seems slightly niche-y, so now we will advertise it.
I don't think it was like the Odyssey. Not Oppenheimer, not Barbie, but Muzu. And she died of old age.
Wow.
Because everyone took care of her.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
she was paralyzed, you'd think that would be a big problem for a monkey.
I expect that someone may actually write a children's book because of the disability that helps children with a similar disability and uses Jimothy as a character. That's usually or frequently is an outgrowth of something like this. They become on animals or the wildlife world for a second and talk a little bit about bumblebees.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this story.
It is. It's a great story. And I don't know why as humans we're always shocked when things other than humans have the capacity to be intelligent and solve problems. But talk to people about what we found out about bumblebees, which we are also rapidly killing.
Yeah, well, boy, am I with you, though. I mean, I think the thing that astonishes people is that bumblebees are insects.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of love for insects. And we're crazy in love with our own big brains. And how big can a bumblebee brain be? But as I've pointed out many times, anything can be miniaturized, including your computer that you carry around in your purse. So anyway, this was a story in Science reporting bumblebees demonstrating insight. And insight is an understanding of cause and effect that is not due to experience, not due to having watched somebody else do it, not due to trial and error. It's like that eureka moment. And we've all had that when suddenly you realize something. So what they did to see, this was a researcher from Finland, to see if these insects were capable of insight was they had a foam ball, they had a blue flower and sweet nectar, and they basically copied a very famous study that was done like in the, what year was that? The 1920s, from Wolfgang Kohler. He had built like a playground for chimpanzees, chimps who are so closely related to us, you can get a blood transfusion from a chimp. And what he did was he set up this high hanging banana, and he set boxes all around their play gym. And lo and behold, the chimpanzees figured out, you know what? If I want to reach that, I'm just going to pile these boxes one up on top of the other and climb up and get the banana. So they kind of did this with bumblebees.
Yeah.
But instead of boxes, they put the bumblebee in like a little terrarium that had a lowish ceiling. He couldn't fly to reach the delicious nectar, but there was a ball. He could roll the ball to put it underneath the flower with the nectar. First, you had to show the bee that the flower had nectar in it. Then he had to learn that the ball wasn't something scary, because they're often afraid of scary things. And sure enough, bumblebees roll the ball underneath, and it was so great to show that someone so small and so common and so overlooked is capable of this genius eureka moment.
Yeah, and I think I think these studies that constantly tell us of the connectivity between animals and insects and fish and us, I think hopefully sort of reminds us of our common shared world that we live in, and that why we should protect it. Because I was taken of the stories that came out this week. I was really taken with this idea of grief in animals and loneliness. I have an older dog, and I sometimes think, well, maybe if we got a puppy, which I don't have the capacity to do, but I sometimes think I take her to daycare still, because I do think that idea of companionship and grief is real for animals too. And it turns out that rabbits go dating for a new mate when they lose their first spouse, which struck me as awesome.
Why do you need speed dating for bunnies?
It's dating for bunnies.
That's what it was about. It was a terrific little article in Harvard Magazine by the editor of the magazine. And a year and a half ago, her bunny Petunia was widowed when her hun bun died of a respiratory infection. And she went through months and months of not wanting to eat and just being angry at stuff. She was like kicking stuff around and knocking things over. And this went on for months and months. And then finally it got a little bit better, but she still was like really subdued. And so she decided to take her speed dating. And this is actually a thing. People don't realize that bunnies need to be housed together. And if you don't want a whole lot of bunnies, what you want to do is get them both spayed and neutered, what she did. But you would not think they needed speed dating, but they did. I mean, that saying, I wouldn't go to bed with you if you were the last person in the world. I mean, essentially, the bunnies that you're meeting that are just going to suddenly live in your house, they are the last bunny in the world. But so you had to make sure that they met and got together. And they had several dates. The first date,
She was very selective.
Yeah.
She was. She kept biting and kicking them in the face, and it just wasn't working. But finally, she did find a lovely male who had just lost his companion.
Oh.
But the reason this was such a good story, I think, was just what you were talking about. She interviewed some pretty fabulous people, including Christine Webb, who wrote this great book, The Arrogant Ape, which I reviewed for the American Scholar, and she interviewed neuroscientists, which point out that we're all wired kind of similarly, that we are wired to fall in love. Falling in love changes your brain. Love affects 16 different areas in your brain.
Wow.
And when you lose the one you love, all that wiring just goes to hell.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that from having, when we lost our Tess, my hair fell out, my gums bled, my memory was shot for months and months and months. I thought I was dying. And it's like a brain injury.
Yeah.
And your brain, all these 16 areas in your brain that were busy being flooded with oxytocin and just giving you your life, all of a sudden it's like you flip that switch off. And we share that with lots of other animals, and certainly with mammals. We share 90% of our genetic material with every placental mammal on Earth, but we share 40% of our genetic material with a banana. So we are very much like everybody else. And our emotions, our memories, our ability to anticipate the future, our insight, all of that is adaptive.
Yeah.
So you would think that evolution would conserve it, which it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for people who want to read the story, it's in the Harvard Magazine. It's written by Lydia Lyle. And it's really a very lengthy story, but one of the things I love about it is that I think it helps to build human empathy toward the things we keep as pets. And by virtue of keeping them as pets, sort of limit in our own minds what they're capable of. I think it sort of builds some knowledge around that kind of stuff. So it's in Harvard Magazine.
And I love that it was age-appropriate matching between the widow and the widower. No one was embarrassingly young. So I loved all of it.
That was great. And they mentioned there's like a 50-page manual for helping to introduce your widowed bunny to a new partner.
Right.
Because if it doesn't go well, I mean, we think of bunnies as like these soft, darling, sweet, calm creatures, but they can really kick. They can kill each other. They're very strong, and they have strong opinions.
So let's, we're going to stay on insects and bunnies, but mostly insects. People don't realize light pollution is a real thing. It is an actual real thing. It's one of the last sort of bastions of pollution that we're coming around to realize is sort of harmful. And there was a win in the town of Rockport for fireflies and against light pollution. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I was thrilled to see that. So what happened in Rockport was the National Grid offered to replace the town's existing incandescent street lamps with bright LED lamps. That sounds great. It would have saved them $4,000. But the new lighting was going to basically kill all the fireflies, kill all the moths, blind all the night active animals, and screw up the migration of birds. So they bravely said no. And it doesn't mean that you can't have energy efficient lighting. It's just that certain kinds of lighting are way too bright. It's like staring at the sun in the middle of the day at night, and you don't need that to be safe on your streets. So gosh, bravo for them. So they said no, and they're going to go for a different kind of lighting. One of the things is that you need to have a light that projects downward to help the people, but doesn't just spill upward and mess up everybody else's life. It's easy to do it right. And don't just go for, the brightest possible light. I mean, no one wants to be lit like a stadium all the time.
Yeah.
But this is a very good thing that actually there's an environmental bond bill that it's the Dark Skies bill. And one of the things we all love living in New England is the fireflies at night and the ability to see the stars. This connects us with all of our ancient ancestors. But we could lose this if we just have to have the world lit up like a gymnasium all the time.
Yeah.
Let's not lose that. Let's keep our streets safe and still be able to see. So this bill passed the Senate and now goes to the House, I think, and you can contact your state rep to support it. You can use your Find My Legislator tool if you don't know who your rep is and support that bill.
Yeah, I thought, and they would save $40,000. I thought what was interesting about what Rockport did was that they really did look at sort of the cascading impact of this one decision. So it wasn't just the fireflies, which is obviously something that draws people to Rockport and to the summer skies, but also with the impact sort of downstream. If you screw up the fireflies, then this gets screwed up, and then that gets screwed up, and then you sort of touch the whole ecosystem without really knowing it, with just thinking that you're saving money and doing something good for the environment, which in the end actually ends up not being so great.
Yeah, I mean, frogs will actually stop calling and stop mating because of a bright light. I mean, and there's your opportunity to make new frogs for the next year, and it's completely ruined by bright lights.
And I can tell you, it's not just Rockport that's doing this kind of thing. When I worked for Ascend, we were citing a cannabis dispensary in Newton. We had to make sure that the light was and this is in the parking lot, all of the lights pointed downward because it was a residential area in the back, and not that there was a lot of wildlife, but there certainly was insect life. And that's when I first started learning about light pollution. So I think there are cities and towns that are doing it individually, but there's no sort of, unless this bill goes through, no sort of state mandate that we start paying attention to this kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm so glad that this is being addressed, because the darkness of the night is part of our real world. And when we get rid of that for everyone, I mean, I think it impoverishes us. And as you said, it's wrecking so many animals' lives because we are tied to the cycle of light and dark. And disrupting that is an enormous disruption.
Someone from the great GBH family, whose name will not be disclosed, would like you to know that they are with the frogs. Plenty of humans aren't fans of mating under bright lights too. Thank you so much, Sy.
It's great to talk to you, Sy. Be well.
Wonderful talking with you. Thanks so much.
We've been speaking with Sy Montgomery, who's a naturalist and author. Her latest book is The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. Coming up after this quick break, we'll be joined by Jason Poulos, who's running in the Democratic primary against Jake Auchincloss in the Massachusetts 4th Congressional District. I'm Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. She's Juliet Kayyem. She's in for Jim Browdy. We're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH. We're live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library, we take a dip into our 3,500-year-old cultural love affair with chocolate.
Chocolate. I remember when they first invented chocolate.
But do you? From its bitter ceremonial roots in Mesoamerica to modern-day confection staple. Break off a piece and tune in. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, installing and servicing the full range of commercial and residential Velux skylight products. More information about their installation process and consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
Welcome back to BPR on 89.7 GBH. I'm Juliet Kayyem, in for Jim Browdy. She is Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. We're live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com. GBH News. We're joined now live at the library by Jason Poulos. He's a Democratic primary candidate for Congress running against Rep. Jake Auchincloss, I got it right, in the Massachusetts 4th District. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Juliet.
And the congressman, I should say, will be joining us or the show on August 13th.
So, Jason, tell us a little bit about how you come to be running for Congress. You're a young guy. Tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to run in this race, because it is not easy to run for a political office, especially a congressional office in 2026.
Thank you, Andrea. So my name is Jason Poulos. I'm running for the 4th Congressional District in Massachusetts. I'm a product of public schooling here in Massachusetts. I grew up in Sherburne. I went to Dover-Sherburne Regional High School. I went to UMass Amherst on a Pell Grant and a work study. I went to UC Berkeley to study my PhD in political science and computational science and engineering, where I was an NSF graduate fellow. And I came back here as a postdoc at Harvard Medical School, where I studied the intersection of AI and health policy. I've been a union member twice, a member of 0 political dynasties. I've very concerned about how AI is impacting our society and our workforce. And so just last year, 50,000 jobs were laid off due to AI, and I don't think anyone in Congress right now is sufficiently concerned about it, and that's why I want to go to Congress and set a floor for workers in the form of Medicare for All to decouple health insurance from employment, in terms of passing the PRO Act to strengthen collective bargaining rights so workers can have a say over how AI is deployed in their workforce, and in form of AI dividends to make sure that productivity gains of artificial intelligence are distributed back to the people.
Yeah. From the reading I did about you, it seems like a lot of your political awakening or decision to join was not just about AI, but was about Gaza and the person that you're running against. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that story for you. Did you ever think that you would be very involved with this issue, and what you would bring to the district in terms of a different viewpoint?
Yes. So when I was a postdoc at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, the encampments were happening in Harvard, and I was very concerned about the students and their right for free speech and to stand up for the Palestinian people and to say, no, we shouldn't send our tuition dollars to the military overseas. And so I wrote a few petitions from scholars to university presidents saying, please sit down with these students. They deserve a seat at the table. They deserve to be listened to. And for that action, I was put on, a doxing website online, and it compromised my, professional ability to secure a job. And, this website was also used by the Trump administration later to deport students studying abroad. And so it changed my viewpoint of myself to think of myself as an activist, as someone who needs to speak out when they see injustice in the world. Representative Auchincloss has voted for $23 billion to go to Israel, to the IDF, and I disagree with that. I would have voted against that funding, and if elected, I would co-sponsor the Block the Bombs Act, which would restrict funding to Israel.
How do you break through? Because, it used to be that people campaigned on a level playing field, but now it is really about how much incumbency you have, how much money you have. Your opponent doesn't have to debate you. They can ignore you for an incredibly long amount of time. And we're also living in a world where there is so much for us to absorb every single day. And there's an election. We have endless elections in this country. So how do you make your positions more widely known and break through all of that so that people know that there is a race and that they have a choice?
Thank you. And so I'd pick the people, the many, over the money all the time. And so we have a deep volunteer bench of about 300 people working, devoting their time towards this campaign. We've knocked on over 6,000 doors. We've sent over 30,000 texts to people in this district, letting them know that there's a competitive primary in which the Democratic Party gets to decide their future. Are we going to be a party of the working class? Or are we going to be a party that caters to the interests of the wealthy donors?
So just in case people don't know, what's in the 4th District? What cities and towns are we talking about so people will know to pay attention?
Right, so the 4th District is composed of 35 towns and cities from Brookline down to Fall River. And so we have canvassing operations all across the district. We had canvassers in Somerset last night. We have canvassers working in Newton and Brookline knocking doors every day.
When you are out in the district, the congressman is very popular, as you know, and represents the different parts of the district as you describe. When I looked at it once, I was like, wow, this is one of those interesting districts in terms of the wide range of communities. What are you hearing from people, both in terms of what they want you to focus on, but also about the Democratic primary? We should be clear, this is the Democratic Party primary is all there is in this district. It is unlikely that whoever wins the Democratic primary would lose. And you taking on an incumbent who has served it is something that people must talk to you about. So I want to hear what you're hearing about the party, because certainly we see out in the country there is a lot of anger in the party.
Totally, and people are really concerned about the cost of living now. Yeah. The cost of housing in particular. People can't afford housing anymore. People can't buy a home. The cost of healthcare is rising, especially for people in Massachusetts. We pay more in health premiums than any other state in the country. It's going to get more expensive with these enhanced tax credits expiring soon. And so that's why we need Medicare for all. To get rid of the co-payments, deductibles, and out-of-network costs that are leading to these high health insurance rates. And we also hear a dissatisfaction over the role of money in politics. That's why I would fight to overturn Citizens United. Representative Auchincloss only recently co-sponsored the Citizens Over Corporations amendment that would overturn Citizens United, and it's as consequence of our progressive campaign.
Give people a sense of the calendar. What's coming up? The primary is when?
The primary is September 1st. Early voting starts August 22nd.
And is there going to be a debate?
So we have a debate scheduled on August 3rd, on Monday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the League of Women Voters of Brookline, Newton, Needham, Wellesley. It's between myself and the presumptive Republican in the race. Representative Auchincloss decided not to participate in the debate.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the youth aspect of this, because you've talked about there being a youth revolt. And a lot of the disillusionment in the Democratic Party has to do with the feeling that the older you are, the more of an incumbent you are, the more likely you are to accept the status quo and benefit from the status quo. I think about the work that someone like David Hogg has done, largely starting around guns, but it certainly has expanded to having a bigger more youthful influence in current politics. Where do you fit into the youth revolt?
The youth revolt's happening because young people realize that politics is not working for them. And it's not working for them because now the median age of buying a first home is over 40 years old. It's becoming more expensive to rent an apartment. It's becoming more expensive to afford health care and groceries. And we see Washington, D.C. send now $1.5 trillion over to the Pentagon. And this is more money that's ever been spent on the military budget since World War II. And at the same time, we're cutting services here at home. We're not funding our schools. Congress should be funding special education, and instead they're funding bombs for the military.
There was just a story actually this morning that young people are simultaneously celebrating the fact that they're graduating, this month or this, very soon, if not already. But there are no jobs.
Yeah.
And to the point of your AI, what are the implications of that?
Yeah, so AI's, it's not theoretical anymore. It's happening in real time. Just last month, the company Oracle announced that 21,000 jobs would be laid off due to AI. And it's not because they weren't being profitable. It's because they wanted to invest that money into AI data centers, the infrastructure that's powering these powerful AI models. And it's leading to these environmental and health impacts that are degrading the quality of life for people living around these AI data centers.
Yeah. I think this is one of the sort of, not, I don't want to say underreported, but the extent, I have 3 20-something kids, the extent to which every conversation isn't about AI as AI, but just sort of the transformative nature of our times, and them knowing that our government is way behind it. So we want to thank you for coming. And look, I mean, I sort of, as I say, I learn a lot from my 20-somethings. I know how they feel about the party, and you're in the arena, which is awesome.
Thank you so much.
And
Thanks
I'm
for
a big
having me.
fan of debate. I just think you have an obligation to debate. Don't stick, don't wait, and because you think you can get by it. Just come, show up, tell us what you're about.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
And we're glad you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Jason Poulos. He's running to unseat Jake Auchincloss for Massachusetts 4th District in Congress. We should note Congressman Auchincloss is going to join the show on August 13th. So coming up after this quick break, we open the phone and text lines to get your thoughts on review culture. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. Are you part of the online community rating everything from restaurants to ride shares to medical care? I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. She's Juliet Kayyem in for Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, one of book lovers' favorite genres, books about books. For our annual August book special for Bookmark, the Under the Radar Book Club, 3 authors turn the pages on their works, centering bookstores and libraries. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, Mass., offering seniors the privacy and independence of their own apartment home, as well as care and support to help meet their needs now and as they age. ConcordPark.org. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865.
Welcome back to BPR on 89.7 GBH. I'm Juliet Kayyem in for Jim Browdy. So great to have everyone here. She's Andrea Cabral in for Marjorie Egan. We're live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Okay, the moment you've been waiting for. Judge us. Don't be judgy. My husband's a judge. Don't be judgy. Maybe you've seen the recent story about the New Bedford Whaling Museum, where the museum, which features 5 whale skeletons on display, in other words, they're dead, got a 1-star Google review that read, quote, worst aquarium ever. They've turned that 2020 review into a viral merch campaign. But it does have us thinking about the world of reviews. With digital and online purchasing, or even in person, it seems like we're being asked to leave a service review everywhere, all the time, all at once. Judge me, judge me, judge me. It's well beyond restaurants and rideshare trips. These days, we're all being asked to review our recent purchases, no matter how small. Buy a banana from Whole Foods? Jeff Bezos wants to know how it went. More accurately, he actually wants to scrap your data and sell it on the internet, probably. So we're ending the show by opening up the lines to let you judge us and to get your thoughts on our review culture. What happens when restaurants rely a little too much on the customer review, and when the customers get a little too bold in their reviewing? Do you really need to take a survey? After talking to the Comcast automated phone system, does every cup of coffee need a review on a little touch screen? And more broadly, do you even trust reviews anymore if everything is either 5 or 1 stars? We clearly have put a lot of thought into this. Reviews and you, 877-301-8970. Call or text again, 877-301-8970. Andrea, judge me. Judge me. How am I doing?
You're doing fabulous. I give you 5 stars,
and
Juliet.
so are you.
I have been saying for a long time that a while ago, we stopped being the consumer. We are actually the product. We are what is being sold, our data, our personal information, and our ability to become advertisers for businesses. The reason this is a pet, I don't mind it getting, you get great service and you say, okay, I don't mind leaving a review. I've certainly done it. I don't do a lot of them, but I don't mind doing it. What I don't like is the fact that our reviews are free advertising for the company. We've already paid you for the service. We've already paid, you're asked to review plumbing companies, any service that you get, food, restaurants, medical care. They are actually taking a review in addition to the payment and using you as an advertiser for their business, because the first thing people go to is the reviews. So you're providing free advertising for any company that you review, and your data is getting scraped. The reason we need gigantic data centers is to hold all the data that gets scraped every time, among other things, people leave a review and leave their email address or phone number or some kind of contact information. That's the problem I have with it.
You know what's so amazing to me? And please call in 877-301-8970, call or text, is that this is on the other side, like people take the time to review, to actually put a review in. Like I can understand a restaurant, or I do reviews for people who, have small businesses who help my house, or, you know, like the guy who comes and fixes something, or my dry cleaner, like stuff like that. But like the idea that like if you, almost everything has some random person with an opinion, that because they're the only person who took the time to have an opinion, it has a high consequence impact on how we think about the issue.
But it also reinforces the message to people that your every thought and your every opinion is worthy of being broadcast to the larger world. And that's just not true. Not everything you think about whether or not McDonald's made your hamburger the right way is worthy of being elevated to a social media platform or put somewhere. So, I just think it's gone completely insane.
So at the end of every semester, I'm a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School. We have to do the dreaded student reviews of your persona and your class and everything. And I take them seriously. I know some faculty members tend not to read them because students anonymously can basically do payback on what they got on the midterm.
Right.
But it's interesting because from the reviewee perspective, generally, I love teaching. I spend a lot of time on it. It's not something I'm shy about. I think I can perform and teach in front of a big class. But every year, so I teach a big class. Like every year, I learn that there are 2 or 3 people who clearly hated me, and I have no idea who they are. I have a class of 90 to 100 students. So I'm like, reading the reviews, and everyone's like, this is a great class, blah, 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 like whatever. She could do this or that or whatever. And then there's like 3 people who give me like a 1 out of 5. And I was like, even on my bad day, I'm not really a 1. But it is, I sort of then spend like a week thinking, was it Jim from South Dakota? Was it Jeremy from, New York? And it's just, we get reviewed too much. But Katrina is in her car, and oh my God, she worked as an editor of professional book reviews.
Hi, Katrina.
The dreaded book reviews, if you can get one.
Don't hate me too much. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I told the screener how excited I was that you're talking about this topic, because I totally agree. Not to sound, elitist or pretentious, but not everyone on the internet's opinion needs to matter. And on top of that, professional book reviews, librarians still use them. I now work in libraries. But there's a real professionalism to it. My mentor, the editor-in-chief I worked for, I won't say where, would say, in an inherently subjective type of work, you have to also remain objective. and not bring like your own biases or like not your own opinions on the subject matter and judge the book as the book, right? So like, yeah, thank you for talking about this. I never.
Oh, it is. No, I definitely, you know, if you read enough, if you read enough books, you also get a sense of sort of what reviewers like. You're like reviewing the reviewer of the review of the thing that you want. I have to say, an important point here, an anonymous texter, because one of the challenges of review, before I introduce this, of sort of, you know, giving everyone an equal voice, is that it undermines subject matter expertise, which we may value more in some things than others. You know, Chinese food, maybe people can have their taste. An anonymous texter writes us, I'm a nurse, and when I worked at urgent care, every person got a text survey right after they checked out. It was infuriating. I can feel your pain. The doctor would have a conversation with the patient about how they had a virus. The patient would argue that they wanted an antibiotic. They'd leave a 1-star review for the clinic. Management would then talk to us about customer satisfaction. I get that the customer is always right, but this is healthcare.
Right.
It's a great point.
No, and that's the problem with asking for the feedback. So call us or text us at 877-301-8970. Do you trust reviews? Are you a big-time reviewer, or are you one of those people that if they bother you too much, you kind of say, look, you know, I was going to leave a review, but now you talk me out of it because you keep bothering me.
Never read the comments. As someone who writes often, never read the comments. Chef Johnny from Framingham.
Good afternoon. And myself, as a person that's worked in many restaurants, reviews to me really don't make much sense. Yeah. I think you have to be yourself going in and trying it, and you be the decision maker on if you really like the product. And then secondly, I found another good way to find out on if a restaurant's really good. If you see the police, the fire department, and the
that's true.
Full, you know. That's
true.
A good restaurant.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that is so true,
that's
Chef.
the way to go.
Because, who are your peers?
I was just talking to another former chef lady that had a great restaurant. It's still her son took over, called the Aegean in Waltham. And he says, you know, Johnny, some of these other restaurants you might go to, but it's not the quality of food that we've put out, which is absolutely true. You have to really be the one to yourself. Don't take everyone's opinion, because honestly, a lot of people don't have a good, you know, palate in regards to what is good and what is bad. When I went to cooking school, you don't have to make the most exotic thing. Make something that's good, hearty, and has just a good, great flavor to it. You don't have to throw all these spices. Just put some quality into the product, and ask sometime your neighbors who are a little more elite on things. But you have to really be the one to be the one to go in there, because I had another disappointment. But someone said, geez, this review of this Mexican restaurant, we went in there, it was the most terrible food. I'm not going to name the place. And guess what? The parking lot was empty.
Interesting.
So we made the mistake of the review to say, I didn't look, you know, good enough in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. There's all these like metrics or clues that you can get that aren't really the review. Like I love Lebanese food. Where I'm Lebanese, and I judge a good Lebanese food by are the people in the restaurant my people, right? Like you walk in, you're like, there's a lot of Lebanese here, and they're very judgy about their Lebanese food. So if they're here, you know it's a good, authentic restaurant.
And really, you know, some of the reviewing, it sort of speaks to our disconnect from one another, that we are constantly looking for the opinions of total strangers on things that are sometimes very important. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go to a healthcare facility based on the reviews or shun it based on the reviews. But I think this just speaks to a larger sense of disconnection among us, where we're just kind of not talking to each other, but listening to everything that people just sort of say online.
Yeah. We do have a clip from Parks and Rec where Nick...
I agree with
Nick Offerman's character, the best character,
Ron Swanson is always right.
Offers his opinion.
Whatever happened to, hey, I have some apples. Would you like to buy them? Yes, thank you. That's as complicated as it should be to open a business in this country.
And to maintain it. He's absolutely right. That's all it should take. You shouldn't have to give feedback.
And Tom from the North End texts us, consistent with it, goes, my wife bought 2 sponges from Home Depot and shortly thereafter received a text message asking to review them.
I think that's hilarious. I mean, it's the smallest thing. Paula from Hingham makes the point that she can't tell the difference between, she gets so confused when she reads the reviews because they're so different. I think one of the things, a watchword, Paula, is that a lot of times reviews are written by bots.
Yeah.
They're either written by bots or friendlies. So if you're starting a business or you have a business, you definitely get friends and family to give positive reviews. But a lot of times they are written. People say the ones on Amazon, a lot of them are bots.
Yeah, and they can also be like, when I have a book come out, you ask people to you ask all your friends and family to review it on Amazon as if that matters. Well, so like everyone has the last name K, right? Because of my last name. But so they can be manipulated. I will say, since we have to have an opinion about everything, and since we are only the guest co-host here, lots of you had views about the GBH studios. An anonymous reviewer said, true. Lovely front desk staff, great workspace, nice architecture, calm atmosphere when Jim Browdy is not there.
Yep.
Contractor, service advisors posted, saw a great show. WHBH. Thanks for trying.
It's amazing how many of them are good reviews, but the asterisk is something related to Jim. I think that's instructive.
Yes.
For the
What
GBH
do we think of
folks.
Jim's new look?
Right.
Some anonymous texters are giving it
He's getting reviews.
He's getting big thumbs up, 5 stars.
Yeah,
I
like
liked it too. I saw it for the first time last week. It's a good look.
Let's talk to Betty Ann. She's calling from Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm a fellow Rhode Islander. Hi, Betty Ann.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. I was just going to say that I hate it when I go in the post office that before I'm checked out, I'm asked to rate the person waiting on me.
I didn't realize they did that at the post office.
They do that.
They do that
at my
now.
Post office, yeah.
That's right.
They do it right on where you're paying, right on the little device there. They ask you to rate them.
And the person that you're rating is literally standing right in front of you.
And waiting on you still.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling, and we are excited to get his review of his upcoming Curiosity Desk.
I can't review something that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Well, no, you have to, what is a pre-review?
It's a preview.
Oh, thank you.
Pre-review.
That's why you're with the Curiosity Desk.
That's right.
What we're here to answer.
If I forget my words, you're there to fill them in.
For.
Edgar P. Herwick III is here to tell us his thoughts and what's coming up on the Curiosity Desk.
I'm just curious. What are your thoughts?
On review culture?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane, obviously, but I also love it a little bit. Like I like reviews as their own literary genre.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's the famous review from like years back. Some woman, I think it was an Outback. She gave like a 1-star review, and she was like, they forgot the bloomin' onion. She was like, this place is terrible. They can't get it together. Like an hour later, she puts another review up. This time it's 5 stars. She says, I'm sorry, I don't know how to remove reviews. Turns out my husband ate the bloomin' onion in the car. My fat husband is a liar. I'm sorry. So, like, that alone, is, like, worth the price of admit. Like, I am glad we have...
a novel in
yes,
2 Yelp reviews. Like, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The husband hiding in the car, eating his onion bloom and hiding from his wife.
Yeah.
So tell us what's next.
Well, I mean, as we're talking about review culture, sort of, one of the places where obviously you're going to see a lot of reviews is eBay, if you ever go to eBay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm sure you two have been following the news,
Yes.
this crazy eBay story that has been going on for years. This local couple here who was being harassed by email. That finally came to a settlement this week. We're going to talk to the lawyer who represented the local couple and get his take on how it all went down.
$56 million.
Indeed.
It's incredible.
Wow. It's
Crazy.
an incredible story. Well, we're looking forward to it. Everyone stick around.
Right on.
You've got a great crowd here, and I love the show.
Good to see you,
It's
Edgar.
fantastic.
Great to see you both.
Thanks for listening to another edition of BPR on 89.7 GBH, and thank you all for coming down to see the show here at the BPL. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. You can check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. If you tune in on Monday, I'll be back with Trenny Casey. We'll be in for Jim and Marjorie. We're going to speak to Michael Curry of the Mass League of Community Health Centers. Corby Kummer, our food policy analyst, and the ACLU of Massachusetts' Carol Rose. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Hannah Loss, and Ariana Gonzalez. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker, and our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Brad Lewis, and Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks too to the security team, Darius and Derek, our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk, starting immediately after us at 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL, and the Culture Show's Week in Review, starting at 2, also live from BPL. Stick around with us all afternoon. I'm Andrea Cabral.
And I am Juliet Kayyem. I'm going to judge you.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to do this again
always
with you.
Good to see you.
Always fun to be the summer fill-in.
Absolutely.
Hope you all have a great weekend and can tune in again on Monday.
Bye.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the David M. Rubenstein Americana Collection in support of the JFK Library's exhibit Declaring the Revolution, America's Printed Path to Independence, featuring historic documents that inspired the Declaration of Independence. jfklibrary.org. And Harvard Business School Baker Library, featuring an exhibit on Muriel Siebert, the first woman to buy a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, open to the public. Details at library.hbs.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library, it's our Friday Misfit News Panel in case you missed it. We dip into the cockamamie drama up in Ogunquit surrounding gigantic metal roosters that have roused a global autism campaign. Then, do you remember that crazy eBay story where a local couple was being harassed by members of the company vis-a-vis shipments of cockroaches and bloody pig masks? Well, it all ended with a $55 million settlement this week. We'll talk with the legal team that delivered the goods. Plus, Red Sox Schmed Sox. The Boston Hunters are here. For the first time since 1954, women have a pro baseball league of their own here in the U.S. We meet a member of the newest home team ahead of their first game this weekend. And we end with a dip into our 3,500-year-old love affair with chocolate. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump's convened a cabinet meeting at Camp David where he gave pointed responses to reporters' questions today. He blasted GOP holdouts, including outgoing Senator John Cornyn, for failing to advance Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General. Has to do in part with Trump's settlement with the IRS that included a controversial $1.7 billion compensation fund. On the U.S. war with Iran, Trump expressed frustration with Tehran's negotiators.
I'm losing faith in them, because they do lie and they do misrepresent. Well, the other day, the 5 missiles were shot. We knocked them down, but we were in the midst of a negotiation. I mean, I'm waiting for Steve to call me. How's the negotiation going? And instead, I got a call from Pete that they just shot 5 missiles at one of our bases in Jordan.
Trump faces low public approval ratings in part over the war. A federal plan for addressing a water crisis affecting 7 western states is now public. It seeks to curb usage, and the Bureau of Reclamation says the plan would be updated every 2 years. The Colorado River provides water to tens of millions of people, but it's facing dire drought conditions. 3 lower basin states affected, Arizona, California, Nevada, could face dramatic cuts in their water use over the next couple of years. Sarah Porter lives in Phoenix, one of the major cities that relies on the Colorado. She's a director of the Clow Center for Water Policy at Arizona State University.
The federal government, through the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, which manages the reservoirs and other infrastructure, has issued what they're calling a 10-year decision framework. And it's basically a statement of the Bureau's idea of its full authority to respond to conditions on the reservoirs as they develop. Whatever is thrown at it, it's what the Bureau believes it has authority to do.
Porter speaking with NPR's Here and Now. The Trump administration wants taxpayers to pay millions in reimbursements for security around its 250th anniversary celebrations. NPR's Rachel Treisman has details.
The Department of the Interior is asking Congress for $10 million to cover what it says are elevated security costs for 3 events on the National Mall: a prayer event in May, the Great American State Fair, and the 4th of July fireworks. Congress already allocated $150 million to events celebrating America's milestone birthday. Most of that money went to Freedom 250, the White House-backed group behind the high-profile events in D.C. The group has not disclosed how much money it raised from donors. Democrats say Freedom 250, not taxpayers, should cover the additional costs. The group has more events planned for August, including an IndyCar race near the National Mall. Rachel Treisman, NPR News.
From Washington, this is NPR.
Good afternoon with the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig Lamolt. West Nile virus is being detected in mosquitoes on the Cape. The Falmouth Health Department issued a statement saying the virus was found in a mosquito sample collected near Siders Pond this week, the second positive sample found in that area. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has elevated Falmouth to the moderate risk category for the virus. Health officials say the best prevention against the mosquito-borne illness is to stay indoors at dusk and dawn, apply insect repellent, wear long sleeves and pants when outdoors, and remove sources of standing water from near your home. Forecasters are predicting a wetter than average winter for New England and a relatively quiet Atlantic hurricane season. That's because of the ongoing warming phenomenon known in the Pacific Ocean known as El Nino, which is affecting weather across the globe. Michael LaRue is a meteorologist at the National Climate Prediction Center.
El Nino tends to affect the Atlantic hurricane season not through the sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, but rather through changes in wind shear. The changes increase upper level shear and tear apart storms that do form over the Atlantic.
That was Michelle LaRue. Forecasters say the current El Nino is likely to be one of the warmest in decades. It's expected to grow stronger through the fall and continue into the spring. In sports, the Red Sox continue their West Coast swing tonight, opening a weekend series with the Angels. And the forecast looks partly cloudy today, a high near 80, partly cloudy tomorrow, and in the low 80s. Right now, clouds and mid-80s on Saturday. This is GBH News. I'm Craig Lamolt.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. We begin with our Friday menagerie of misfit news. This is In Case You Missed It. In case you missed it, up in Maine, giant metal rooster statues are ruffling more than a few feathers. Nearly $1,000 in municipal fines has, in turn, fueled a global movement for autism awareness that has stretched as far as New Zealand. If you're a conflict-averse chicken enthusiast needing a night out after this week, and a late one, a reminder, today is your final day to take advantage of the extended nightlife hours, at least here in Boston. But if it's burritos you are craving, you've got until September 25th after your favorite fast food burrito chain from 2013, Boloco, announced that they are closing their final shop. Well, here to catch us up, we are joined by the haziest, hottest man in Boston radio, Henry Santoro, and also with us, the fabulous Emily Sweeney, Boston Globe crime reporter, blotter, tales columnist, video social journalist. You can find her on Instagram and TikTok at Emily Sweeney22. Emily, Henry, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Edgar, happy birthday weekend.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
My, oh my.
Very happy to be here.
Based on that sound, I think we're going to start by going to Ogonquit, and this is a story that happened this week that folks might have missed, which is has to do with giant rooster statues. So I'll give the basic facts of the case here. There's a place called the Omelet Factory, which is a breakfast and lunch place. It's a busy spot up on Route 1. The owners there live in a house that is attached to the restaurant.
Correct.
They have put up a bunch of like enormous rooster sort of statues, figurines. The town, this goes all the way back to April, the town has sort of said, hey, you're violating town code. You can't have those up there announcing your business. They have come back and said, no, it's not announcing our business. We have this by our house because our adopted child has autism, and the comfort animal for this child is the rooster, and they are doing this to kind of make their child feel safe.
When they adopted this young girl, she showed up with a rooster. She's a stuffed animal.
Yeah, there's history here.
There is history here. That's for sure.
So this is stretched on. This has become like a real battle up there. So they were fined, I think, $200 initially. The fines have now stretched to $1,000. They're sort of essentially holding their ground, saying, hey, we're not going to take these down. And now they're starting to get support, both in the town and online.
As well they should.
Yeah.
I mean, the fun police can take a hike on this one. I mean, it's ridiculous what they're trying to do to this family.
No, totally. I mean, I got one word, cock-a-doodle-doo. Put a rooster on my lawn, I'd show my support.
So we're like fully behind the family on this.
100%.
What do you think?
And they can make a case. They have already made their case.
Yeah.
And who cares about remember the Hilltop Steakhouse?
I do remember the Hilltop Steakhouse.
The front of the lawn was littered with life-size plastic cattle.
That's true. That is true.
Bring the fun police there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like when you think about it, I mean, you bring up the Hilltop, right? And I think about when I think about Route 1 north of the city there, like the thing is the crazy, enormous, big signage, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Absolutely.
Classics.
Yeah.
And the big cactus.
So let them have the roosters. I mean, what? It's not doing any harm whatsoever.
What do you think why do you think the town is digging in on this? Do you have a theory?
You know, when you have a rule on the books, they have to enforce it if they have any neighbors complaining.
Yeah.
And so that's why their hands are tied, I guess. But you know what they have to do is they have to go to whoever makes the rules and
change the rules.
Update them, change them, or make an exemption for this family.
Exactly.
And I think they have applied for an exemption. And, but one of the things that I was reading is that, essentially they've said, come on, don't be heartless. This is about our kid. And, an official of the town said, well, yeah, but, they went back to, a story that had been written when they first opened, because they were, new owners of this breakfast place. So when they first opened it, there was, a mention in the story that the roosters were connected to the opening of this place. And so they were I think technically you did say in this story a few years ago.
Well, even if they were, so what?
Yeah. I mean, it's a rooster. I just love that the blowback. I mean, roosters are popping up everywhere now.
Yeah.
If you didn't like roosters or whatever neighbor complained, I think it's... it's
also to be clear, it's not like it's a real rooster, right? It's not waking people up at 4 a.m, cock-a-doodle-doo. These are just figurines of roosters.
6 feet tall and silent.
You know why the rooster crossed the road, right?
Why did the rooster cross the road, Henry?
Why?
To show he wasn't chicken.
Nice.
All right, let's hear it for Henry Santoro, ladies and gentlemen.
Try
shows
the gym.
Tonight.
They have it over there. It's a great sandwich.
Well, speaking of the fun police are maybe coming back out. And we had a reprieve from the fun police during the World Cup festivities here, and not just World Cup. We gotta mention that the late hours that have been offered to some places to extend, keeping the bars open until as late as 3:00 because of the World Cup, but also the tall ships. People famously party hard after the tall ships, I guess. But today's the last day, and in fact, Emily, this is something you've been on. I want to play a little sound from your latest Instagram reel here. Let's hear a little from your reporting on late night culture this month here in Boston.
Boston's nightlife is boring. Get out more. Let's go somewhere else. Where are you going?
How would you describe Boston nightlife now?
Lively, a little chaotic. We saw some guy already plastered on the ground. It's 9 o'clock.
What about the 3 a.m. closing time?
I think they should have it forever. It's probably good for the young kids. Put them in bed, yeah? Nothing good happens after that time.
I spent over 3 years living in New York City, so I was used to having last call at 3, 4, 5 a.m. As long as there's no uptick in violence or crime, I'm supportive.
Emily, I love that. There's a guy that's passed out already at 9 o'clock. So it doesn't matter if the bar's closed at 1 or 2 or 3.
But there's always that guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he was passed out at 9 o'clock. We got to keep the bars open. You've been on this story. Talk about what
it was a hard-hitting
experienced.
investigation. I went down to Faneuil Hall on a Saturday night, me and my producer Maria, and we just talked to people. We're like, what do you think about Boston's nightlife? And I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of people were like, it's freaking awesome. And, people were excited. There were a lot of people out and about walking around. And there was a lot of support from the people we talked to about, extending the last call to 3 a.m. again. So, whether that happens or not, we'll have to see. But, it did go back to the old closing times.
Yeah.
So it's in the past.
Yeah, for now. I mean, Henry, I'd love to get your take on this because you're someone who has partied hard in Boston for many a year.
And not only that, but I worked the clubs on Lansdowne Street for years. I worked at Spit, I worked at Metro, I worked at Bill's Bar. I worked at all those clubs on Lansdowne Street for a long, long time. And I'll tell you, going that extra hour is perfectly fine. It's just I'm 100% for a 3 o'clock closing. I know that, when we used to close at 2, the bartenders and the barbacks and, the people who work the shifts were always looking for something to do.
Yeah, they had nowhere to go.
Where do you go? And that was, then we created the after hours parties and the house parties with bands and stuff. And you could go until 4 or 5 in the morning.
So what do you think ought to happen here? I mean, because I think there is something of an open question about what, what this experiment, so to speak, has shown us. And certainly, there no shortage of restaurant owners and folks who work in the industry who've said, hey, this has been a boon for us. This has been a boost. They're in favor of it. I know, not everyone is. The Boston Police Department, I think, has famously sort of been like, yeah, I don't know that you guys need to do that.
Well, I'll tell you something. When I worked at Spit.
Do tell
Come on, take us there, Henry.
When I worked at Spit on Lansdowne Street, the Boston Police used to have regular parties starting at 2 a.m. And I would get paid big money to keep the bar open until the last person left.
Really? Like a little wink under the table? Keep it open
huge
kind of
wink
thing?
under the table, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So the police know what's. I mean, they get the. They know what's going on. But I think here's what I think should happen. I think now that it's behind us with the World Cup and the tall ships and so on, I think the Mayor Wu and Governor Healy should call a powwow of all the restaurants and bars and just have a one big summit of what do you think we should do, and let everybody weigh in on it.
Yeah, no, I think, if people want, and the businesses want to extend the hours, they absolutely should, because, the experiment, all hell didn't break loose, right?
No.
Buildings are still standing, everybody's okay. I think it was shown that it can be done.
And you get big places like Empire and Big Night, down towards the Seaport area. Those are big, vibrant clubs.
Yeah,
they can, they would love to stay open till 3.
Do you think? Could you handicap it from when you sit here right now? Do you think anything's gonna come of this, or do you think we're just going back to sleepy Boston?
I think some of the folks I talked to when I was out Saturday night were saying that the Scots being here, I think, left an impact to show that, hey, look, people can party without fights breaking out. Look, people can drink till 3 a.m. and it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's changed things.
But there were two issues on the table. There's that particular issue, and there's also, do we bring back happy hour?
Which is also apparently on the table. I mean,
and that's on the table
Governor
as well.
Maura Healey at least sort of has signaled, hey, I don't think it's that bad of an idea.
Well, it depends on how you do it. Again, when I was working in the clubs,
tell us, Henry.
there were certain
always happy
there were
hour.
There were certain clubs that you could go to like before 9 o'clock at night, and women drank free. And men men would get 10 beers for $1.
10 beers?
Can we bring that back?
10 beers. But by 9 or 10 o'clock at night, chairs were flying through the air. I mean, it was
well,
a
listen,
crazy
it
scene.
sounds like maybe if we bring happy hour back, we don't need to keep the bars open till 3 because
no, you
everybody's going
won't.
to be passed
Everybody
out by 1.
10, yeah.
Yes. Well, one thing you're soon not going to be able to do, no matter when the bar lets out, is get a burrito at Boloco. So this is an RIP to Boloco. We were sort of joking in the intro to the segment, everybody's favorite burrito place from 2013. But Boloco, local chain that for a moment in time was a pretty big deal. They had 20-plus locations, mostly in New England. They were expanding, kind of in all directions. And, it hasn't worked out. Their final restaurant announced this week that they're going to be closing their door downtown here in September. What do we make of this? Do we care? Do we have Boloco stories?
Well, it's right next door to the Globe, their Congress Street location. And so I've gone in there many times. And I got to say, I've never been in a line there. I mean, I usually run in and out. It's pretty easy.
Take what you want from that. Nobody's lining up. Okay.
But it was right next door, and it's kind of like a little local institution of sorts.
Yeah.
You don't see many chains coming up, like they did, and it's kind of sad to see. But I think they had a good run.
I think they did have a good run, and when they opened, when they first opened their first shops, they used to come up to WFNX all the time, my old radio station here in town. They used to come up all the time, and it just looks to me like they've had a lot of peaks and valleys. They had so many ups and downs over the years, and I think the problem is they just really grew too fast.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money to open these establishments, and I think they had, their eyes were bigger than their burritos, so to speak.
One little note in this that I find interesting is the fact that they have said before, maybe this is the reason, maybe it's not, but their final location is they are closing, they say, because it's the result of one of these the city program that has said we're going to take office buildings that are empty, we're going to convert them to residential. This building where they're located is one of these buildings that was an office building is being converted to residential. So it is interesting to see an actual impact from that, which is one of these things that we all know housing is an issue around here.
Maybe they could do a food truck.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Maybe there's a Boloco food truck coming. All right. We are talking with Henry Santoro and Emily Sweeney. This is our In Case You Missed It menagerie of misfit news. We only got a moment left, but I want to get your take before I let you two go on the resolution of this crazy years-long eBay story where there's a local couple here who was being harassed by the security team at eBay. They came to a settlement this week, $50+ million settlement. Yeah. What do we make of this? We have thoughts on this?
Oh, wow. I watched the documentary last night.
Did you?
And it is insane. The
story
couple,
is nuts.
What they went through, they were terrorized, and just who got in trouble at the company and who didn't. It's wild. It's insane. I thought I knew the story well, but
I know.
There's only one word for this story, and it's bonkers.
It is bonkers, right? It sort of stretches credulity because you're like, really? Like they were going to these lengths?
Well, I mean, I've sold stuff on eBay. I sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and in many cases, you're dealing with crazy people. But you wouldn't expect it from the employees of this company, and these were executives.
Yes.
Who were laying down the law.
Well, I got to let you two go, but stay tuned if you're interested in more for this. We, in fact, are going to be talking next with the lawyer who represented that local couple, and we're going to get a little more detail on what happened and what the settlement means. That's coming when we return. As for now, I want to say thank you to Henry Santoro, GBH Midday News anchor, and the phenomenal Emily Sweeney, video journalist, crime reporter, the woman behind Blotter Tales, at Emily Sweeney 22 on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you both for being with us.
Oh,
happy birthday.
Thank you, and happy birthday.
As I said, coming up next, we will talk to the lawyer who represented David and Ina Steiner in that eBay case. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, BTS boycotts the Grammys, refusing to submit their comeback album after the awards create a separate Asian pop category. And on Nantucket, a shop's No Influencers sign turns a summer retail rule into a wider fight over cameras, clout, and island life. Plus, famed chef Barbara Lynch is aiming for a culinary comeback. We'll take on that and more on our Week in Review today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Neville Place Assisted Living in Cambridge, providing residents with a range of services designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. More at nevilleplace.org/care. And Gloucester Stage, presenting Betrayal by Harold Pinter. When two lovers meet for the last time, their affair unfolds backwards into a near decade-long illicit love triangle. Now through August 1st. Tickets available at gloucesterstage.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, as we were mentioning, this week, David and Ina Steiner and eBay reached a resolution in an almost 6-year legal battle. The two were victims of a bizarre harassment that included being sent bloody pig masks, cockroaches, and deliveries at all hours of the night to keep them awake. Why? Well, the couple published negative reports about eBay on their website, ecommercebytes.com, where they report on various marketplaces. A U.S. district judge ruled that the Steiners will receive a $49 million settlement. An additional $7 million donation will go to First Amendment organizations. Here to talk about the ruling and what we can learn from this case is Chris Murphy of Scally Murphy Law. He represented the Steiners in the case. Chris, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I need to correct, though. I wasn't
please.
the only lawyer who represented the Steiners.
Lawyer.
We had a great team.
Excellent.
Truly great team.
Good to hear that. We like when people work as a team, Chris. So for those who aren't privy, people who didn't follow this case too closely, we've alluded to some of it, but it would, kind of tell us exactly what happened. Why was this local couple being harassed by eBay?
I think you said it, but I had a comment. You said Ina published negative stories.
Yeah.
Ina published truthful negative stories and published positive stories. Ina's a reporter who covered e-commerce, not just eBay, but all of them.
Yep.
And she was an unbiased reporter. But at the time she was covering eBay, they were having financial difficulties. Their CEO was under a lot of pressure for poor performance. He was spending money lavishly on unessential things like a recreation of a New York bar. There was a hostile takeover group, Elliott Management, was looking and buying up shares. And the pressure was on, and he vented on Ina and David of all people.
So on eBay's side, walk us through who the major players were. Like, how does this sort of harassment materialize from the eBay side, and what exactly plays out over what course of time?
This is the troubling problem. It's the sort of the power and autonomy of the C-suite in big business.
Yeah.
So the then CEO, Devin Wenig, said, we need to take her down.
Who did he say this to?
He said this to his lieutenants. There was Stephen Weimer, was who he said it directly to, but the pressure was also to another C-suite executive, Wendy Jones. Wendy Jones coordinated with the head of security, Jim Baugh, and said, you go talk to Weimer. Don't tell me what's going on. I'm paraphrasing. And Stephen Weimer really ramped this up, said horrible things about Ina, said he wanted to see ashes, said hate is a sin and I'm very sinful. And he then worked with Jim Baugh, head of security, and his team and his unit unleashed the campaign of terror against the Steiners.
I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie,
Agreed.
It doesn't sound like something that could actually happen in real life. But ultimately, what was going on over this course of 6 years, and this happened years ago. Why did this case take so long to kind of come to a conclusion?
Well, initially, it was unclear who did this to the Steiners.
So, okay.
In August of 2019, it was discovered through great work from David Steiner, who took a picture of a license plate, the Natick Police Department, who chased down some leads, and through the local FBI. And ultimately, in 2019, they were able to tie it back that a contractor for eBay, a woman, Veronica Zay, was involved. And that broke it a little bit and just put a crack of light into what was going on. However, COVID hit. And so for almost the next year, the FBI and the DOJ were investigating. Ina and David were in the dark and still horribly terrified because they didn't know if these people that were threatening them with real harm were caught or apprehended. And it wasn't until the indictments broke, it may have been May of 20, when 6 eBay employees were federally indicted, and there was a 7th added later.
And these are the people who were executing this plan. But in this case, and what we're talking about today in the resolution that came, is sort of looking above their heads and saying, hey, there needs to be some justice here on the Steiners' part from the people who set the plan in motion.
So, like always, the little guy takes the fall, right?
Yeah.
The C-suite was not charged by the Department of Justice. That left a very bad taste in the Steiners' mouths. Usually when the Justice Department's looking at you, they tell you when you're charged. In this case, and I won't pretend to know the behind the scenes, eBay got to have a meeting with the Department of Justice before the indictments, and somehow the C-suite was not indicted. I don't know if the evidence was insubstantial or not. From my perspective, I think they should have been indicted. And that really bothered Ina and David. So they filed a civil lawsuit to hold eBay accountable, to hold the C-suite in particular accountable, and to do things. Everyone hears the money. The money was never important. It's all the other parts of the settlement agreement that are really important to all of us.
So what are some of those other parts that are important?
One of the big ones is we're talking about it.
Right.
Most wrongdoers, especially big business, will dangle. They'll say they're sorry. And eBay said, we're sorry. We'll make it right. Well, it took 7 years of litigation to make it right.
Yeah.
They'll dangle compensation in front of a victim and say, you can have this if you say, shh. Here's our NDA. Here's our confidentiality. So there's no confidentiality in this. And David and I get to share, and I get to share. The bigger points and takeaways for all of us are Ina and David set precedent in the federal court with their case. Massachusetts didn't have punitive damage laws on our books that would apply in this case. In fact, one was dismissed early, but a great member of our team, his name's Todd Garber. He's with a law firm out of New York called Finkelstein, Blankenship, Free Pearson, and Garber. Todd Garber is very smart, said, you know what, we need to argue and change this. Todd argued that eBay is domiciled in California.
Yeah.
And in California, if a corporation stalks an individual, there's laws that allow that individual to get punitive damages, punishment damages against the company.
Okay.
And Todd argued to a great judge here in Massachusetts in our federal court and said, this is unfair. California should not be allowed to leave California, come to our Commonwealth, and not be punished with punitive damages. And that judge, Judge Saris, said, you're right.
So punished under the California laws,
Correct.
even though the action was taking place here in Massachusetts. And you're saying, sort of prior till now, this is not, this wouldn't have held muster in the court.
Throughout our country now, victims, when corporations come at them, if that corporation is in a punitive state, they can argue the precedent set in Ina Steiner versus eBay Incorporated.
Interesting. So, before I let you go, you sort of talked a little bit about it there. I mean, obviously the thing that catches your eyes is just the as we were saying, the sort of like ripped from a movie sort of nature of this case. And then, as you said, this is a pretty big settlement. So you see the money, but what should people take away from this? What should we look at this and say, hey, this is my takeaway?
I think the big takeaway is that the little guy can win. Ina and David had been doing their business for 2 decades out of their house. They loved auctions. They followed and rode the .com wave, and they support sellers in e-commerce. It's a humble business, and eBay went after them. They fought back, tooth, nail, grit. They're an amazing couple, and 7 years later, they've made eBay pay, and they've made each of the executives contribute personally, which is a rarity.
All right. We've been speaking with Chris Murphy of Scally Murphy Law. Chris, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, another piece of news this week that has, this one, nothing to do with eBay or cockroaches or pig masks. It is the debut of a brand new women's pro baseball league. 4 teams, one in New York, one in LA, one in San Francisco, and most relevant for us, one right here in Boston, the Boston Hunters. They'll play 7-inning games, 15-game season. It's all taking place in Springfield, Illinois at Robert Roberts Stadium, and it all begins this weekend. We are joined right now, ahead of that, over Zoom, by 2 members of the league who've got some Boston ties. Woburn's finest Jacqueline Reynolds plays her first game with the New York Heights tomorrow in Springfield against the Los Angeles Queens. And Beth Greenwood is also with us. She's playing for the Boston Hunters. Jackie Reynolds, Beth Greenwood, how's the energy out there? How are you feeling?
Oh man, it's feeling good. I can't believe that tomorrow's our first day. Yeah.
So, I mean, one way of looking at it, I guess you could say, like, you know, the lead up to this has been 70 plus years, because it's been 70 plus years since there's been a professional women's baseball league. But for you two, like, you know, how long has this journey been for each of you? And, you know, what does it mean to be finally doing it starting tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, for most of us in this league, I know specifically for us, we've played baseball our entire lives, and I think we've kind of grown up playing with the boys, and for the last couple of years, there's been a big push for women's specific baseball. I know we met 8 years ago at USA Women's National Team tryouts, so there's been a bunch of us kind of in this tight-knit women's baseball community for the last decade or so, kind of really pushing for this league.
Yeah, I mean, this is, a dream come true. Like, when we were little growing up, even for me, like I was like, I'm gonna play for the Boston Red Sox, which was a dream when I was, in elementary school, and I would tell my teachers that, and they would just look at me and like, yeah, okay. So being able to just now say that, we're professional athletes is huge for us.
Now, I mean, you mentioned the Red Sox. I'm looking at the two of you right there. One of you has a Boston hat on. One of you has a New York hat on. Is the rivalry started already?
Oh, the shit talking's already begun.
Oh, we love that. So, for the two of you, well, one of the things I wonder about is, like, how often or how many times did somebody say to you when you were growing up, why do you need to play baseball? Why don't you just play softball? You have softball.
Literally don't have enough numbers in the world to be able to count how many times. I think so many people oftentimes when we say we played baseball would either correct us and say you mean softball, or would just think we don't know what we're talking about. And so it's been really nice kind of having this community, especially of women's baseball players, not only here in the US, but also over the world, where you say what sport you're playing and they know they trust what you're saying. It's pretty exciting with the growth of the league and kind of the press it's been getting, that people now, when I say I play professional baseball, they know what I'm talking about.
How different is playing baseball versus playing softball? Why baseball as opposed to softball?
Well, me being a pitcher, softball pitching is a lot different than baseball pitching. So, I mean, I grew up, with a brother, and we were always in the backyard throwing to each other, trying to figure out what pitches we can throw. And growing up, like, he threw a knuckleball at me all the time, and I would always throw a slider at him. So it was very cool to be able to just grow up with him and being able to focus in on baseball pitching. I think softball pitching is a lot harder, and I don't want to be anywhere near that circle on that field.
That's awesome. So, I mean, do you feel a sense of history as this is unfolding, or are you just like really locked in the moment? I think a lot of people, I'm looking out here at the audience here at the Boston Public Library. I mean, I'm going to guess at least half of the people here have seen A League of Their Own. I'm sure you two have seen it as well. It's obviously what springs to mind when we think about women's baseball for a lot of people in our collective imagination. But as I said, it's been 70 years since that, 70 plus years since that league sort of kind of ceased to be, and here you are starting it back up again. I mean, do you feel a sense of history and responsibility?
Yeah, I think all of us playing, we've always kind of felt this sense of responsibility playing. I mean, oftentimes we've been the only one in our leagues or where we're coming from, so there's always been this responsibility that we represent more than ourselves, and we represent girls and women in this game. And a lot of us have had the opportunity to be around some of the women who are still alive from A League of Their Own back in the 50s. We were just last week, we had a large event where some of them that were still with us were at a large girls baseball event with 900 girls playing baseball. And so I think this entire time we've realized that we just can't do this by ourselves. This is a group effort, and this is every generation coming together and making it come to fruition. So we're excited to play, but at the end, we also understand our responsibility that this is not just for us. This is to make sure that this works for the next generation and so on and so forth, to show the world what women's baseball is all about.
How hard was it to get drafted into this league? I mean, what was the tryout process like?
So there was the announcement of the league starting, and then they were like, hey, tryouts are going to be at this date. And for us, we actually got to pass by a couple of the days of tryouts. So we got to pass by to day 3. So days 1 and 2, there was many people at the tryouts. I think they said over 600 people were actually there and tried out. And day 1, we went and watched. And it was really cool to go and see how many people just came to the tryout just to say that they did it. And it was, I think you had to be 18 to try out. And then, there was people in their 60s, 70s trying out to say like, hey, this was an opportunity that I had to do.
Oh, that's amazing.
And because they grew up like growing up with the same dreams that we had. Like, I'm grateful that this league is now and not, 20 years from now when I'm done playing.
When you sort of close your eyes and picture that first pitch, that first moment out there on the field, what goes through your mind? What goes through your heart? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Like what's happening inside?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, I can't even imagine it, to be honest with you, because I feel like our entire life it's been, we've dreamed of this league and we knew that girls' and women's baseball was amazing and we wanted there to be another league of their own. And all this buildup, it's starting to feel more real and real. We just had our media day with our uniforms, so that felt pretty real putting them on. But I think that until that first pitch, that's when it's really going to hit that this is happening. And I'm excited. I think the good, nervous, I think everything in between. But I honestly don't think it's going to hit us until tomorrow on that first pitch, and then for my team until Sunday.
How about what do we hope is this league is like, say 3, 4, 5 years from now? As I mentioned at the start, right now 4 teams. All of the games happening in one location, which I think is going to, sounds like it's a very cool way to start. I think the vibes are going to be good. But is there dreams that you look down the road 5 years and there's 12 teams and you're traveling across cities to do this? What's the hope?
Yeah, I mean, I know the goal is to have more teams. Like this year being the 4 teams and being all in the same location for us is pretty cool. Because, when we grow up and we're playing baseball, it's only like 2 or 3 weekends a year. So getting to just chill and hang out with all of our friends that are actually here is actually really cool because, we only get to spend, 3 days at a time. And now we spent 4 or 5 days with each other. And that part's really cool. But for the league itself, I hope that it grows, and I hope that we get to play in our cities. Like a bunch of my family and friends were asking me like, hey, when do you play in Boston? Like, we want to go see you play. And, that would be pretty cool to be like, hey, where I'm playing at this time and come to the game. And like, I'll have a big fan section, which would be really awesome to see.
Now, you're both at the start of the journey here. Is the dream in both of your cases that it ends in Cooperstown, New York in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I mean, I think that our dream is to make sure that this is successful so that girls have opportunities moving forward. And I think that a byproduct of this is that this is creating history and will be a part of history. So I think that it inevitably will end up being part of Cooperstown.
Right on. All right, we've been speaking with Woolburn's Jackie Reynolds, who's playing with the New York Heights. They face off against the LA Queens tomorrow at 6 Eastern at Robin Roberts Stadium in Springfield, Illinois. It's streaming on ESPN. And Beth Greenwood, another local player, is sticking with her home team, the Boston Hunters. They've got their first game on Sunday, August 2nd. Thank you both. Congratulations and good luck with the season.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
When we return, one chocolate sommelier makes her case for why the world of chocolate tasting is as complex, maybe even more so, than the world of wine. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
After Dr. Anthony Fauci's contentious Senate hearing, experts worry trust in public health in the U.S. may erode further.
That devaluing will make it much harder to do the work of public health.
I'm Sasha Pfeiffer. Public health officials say declining confidence in their field could make people more vulnerable to current pathogens and future pandemics. That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, offering the full range of Velux Skylight products, installation, and maintenance services to customers from Boston to Portland and surrounding areas. More information at mmskylights.com.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, for many of us, chocolate is introduced at an early age, and for most, it remains a source of joy well into adulthood. From its earliest roots in Mesoamerica to some of the first industrial-produced chocolates right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts, chocolate has rich flavors we don't always pick up on, apparently, we're going to learn, and also a rich history. Every step in the process, from the place the cocoa is sourced to how it's processed, milled, and transported, all plays an important part in the complexities of its flavor. Yes, there's so much more to chocolate than Hershey Corporation would lead you to believe. Yes. Well, here to take us deep into the world of chocolate right now is Victoria Kichun, a chocolate sommelier and founder of Cocoa Beantown, the chocolate tour and tasting company. That's cocoabeantown.com. Victoria, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you so much.
So I heard you just got back from Peru. Was this a chocolate-related trip, or was it just for fun?
Oh, well, it was lots of fun for sure, but it was absolutely chocolate-focused. It was my second time in exactly a year. I've been with this great company called Cacao Life that does Peruvian cacao exports, but also does eco-origin trips. And so it was like chocolate summer camp. We were visiting farms to visit cacao farmers and to see their processes. We did chocolate tastings at Origin. It was amazing.
Wow. All right. Well, maybe you could just quickly give us an overview of the process, sort of from bean to bar, and then we'll do some tasting because, folks, if you're here at the library, you can maybe see. If you're streaming, you can maybe see. But folks on the radio, we've got I don't know, a dozen different kinds of chocolate here. We have what looks like color wheels and there's real science going on here on the desk in front of us.
For sure. A lot of folks love to say that they're experts at tasting chocolate because they've been eating it since they were young, but there is a science behind it.
All right. Well, let's get into the science behind it. Let's just go.
Okay. All right. Well, so as you mentioned, part of the sort of misunderstanding that folks have about chocolate is because there's all this sort of whimsical, fanciful storytelling behind it. It's not actually little orange men and with green hair.
Not?
No, I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but that's not actually how your chocolate is made.
I see.
But it is still a magical process because it begins in lands far away. These pods don't grow anywhere near us. These are actual cacao pods, though they've been dried. Yours still has the beans inside.
Yeah, so you can hear...
Yeah.
This is real?
That's real. It was dried, but it's not fresh harvested, no. But
this is kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
It seems fake.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
It's the whole fruit would be the cacao, and then the beans are technically the seeds of the fruit.
Okay.
So when these pods get harvested off the tree, they get cut open immediately. The beans get scooped out. They're all pulpy when they're fresh.
And what if I just eat that bean? What's it going to taste like? Or is it too hard to even eat at that point?
So you could eat it. It wouldn't taste like chocolate. The pulp around it would give a fruity appearance. It has notes of lychee sometimes, also sometimes melon, citrus, all sorts of different flavor notes.
Wild.
And then the bean itself is sort of nutty and crunchy and whatnot. So it has to get fermented. Not a lot of folks know that chocolate's a fermented food. So
really?
If you've heard that you should be eating more fermented
foods. It's not just
chocolate,
kimchi.
Everybody.
Kimchi and chocolate. Have them together. Lots of fermented.
Worked so far for generations.
Wow.
So once it's fermented, if fermentation goes properly, because it can go awry, it can
Yeah.
be over-fermented, under-fermented, moldy. We don't want that, but it happens. And properly fermented cacao, then they're going to get dried so they can get shipped to the chocolate maker, the factory. And then once the chocolate maker has it, they'll decide on roasting profiles. So just like in coffee, you can have different roasting profiles that affect flavor. Same thing with chocolate.
So light roast chocolate, dark roast chocolate, these are actual things that happen?
Exactly. And that's the first chocolate we're going to taste today, too.
Let's taste some.
Okay.
I want to taste some chocolate. You are listening to the Curiosity Desk. We are expanding our chocolate palettes together with Victoria Kichun from Cocoa Beantown. Take us in there.
So I have 3 chocolates for you that are all the same percentage, which means
when
the
you
same
say percentage, you mean percentage of what?
Of cacao versus sugar or other elements added to it.
Okay, so the percentage just means the percentage that is cacao.
Cacao content.
And then, but you don't necessarily know what the rest of it is. It could be a lot of sugar. It could be milk. It could be whatever.
Yeah, in this case, it's a dark chocolate, so it's just sugar. There's no milk in it.
Great.
But there's different roasts, as you said. With coffee, we're going to try a light, medium, and dark roast.
Okay.
So same bean, same maker, same amount of sugar, but a light, medium, and dark roast. roast.
Okay.
So we'll start you with the light roast.
This is a light roast piece of chocolate, which I have picked up, a little chip of chocolate. I'm going to have a little bite there.
Yep. If you can, let it melt a little bit. Hold it on your palate.
Tell me how to taste this, because I
Yeah.
feel like, is it, like with wine, they say, like, check the legs, and then you give it a swirl, and then you do the thingy. Like, what do we do with chocolate?
So luckily, there's no spitting involved in chocolate tasting.
Nice.
Points for chocolate tasting, I would say, for sure. But letting it melt on our palate definitely lets the natural fat, which is the cocoa butter, come to our body temperature, which the melting point of cocoa butter is so close to our body temperature that it's this really beautiful physiological marriage. Like, we're made for each other, chocolate and us.
The melt in your mouth.
Exactly.
Phenomenon.
It coats your palate, and then you get the full flavor. So you might be noticing that even though this chocolate is very simple, as I said, it's just cacao content and sugar, the light roast will have certain flavors, and then when we move to the next chocolate, the medium roast, you'll have to tell me how it differs for you.
Okay. Wait, you taste some of it. What do you taste when you eat this one? Because I taste this, and you know what I'm thinking? This tastes like chocolate.
That's really good.
That's about as far as my brain is going right now.
So,
yeah, help me here.
So the first thing you have is there's sort of like a light, sort of citrusy.
There is a citrusy thing, yeah.
See,
Okay.
you did get that.
No, I did get that.
This actually, that we have tasting
Yeah,
wheels.
so we have these wheels here, folks. If you're down here at the library checking us out on the stream, you can see them. I'll describe it. It does kind of look like a color wheel. We've got creamy, nutty, earthy, caramel, fruity, spicy. That's kind of our inner flavors.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then we've got all kinds of stuff on the outside.
Yes.
Wood, smoke, honey, banana, licorice. So these are the sort of tastes that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and this is actually just a partial flavor wheel to talk to the aspect of wine.
Yeah.
There are over 400 different recognized aromatic flavor profiles that can be derived from cacao. That's more than double than what is available in wine.
Wow.
So if you think chocolate all tastes the same, you haven't had the right chocolate, maybe come to a tasting event with Cocoa Bean Town.
Wow.
But also the idea that craft chocolate is so different than a Hershey's or a Mars bar because it's made properly, and that's what we're having here.
All right.
So if we go to the medium roast.
Moving on to the medium roast here, folks.
And if we were doing this really technically, we would do a palate cleanse in between. But
which is what? Just some water?
Just some water, or you might have like a saltine cracker or something.
Okay. All right, we're going in for a little medium roast. I want to say it's like a little bit more like honey. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Also, it's getting a little nutty
too,
right? And that's because we're seeing that temperature change from the amount, the roasting profile. Again, same amount of sugar, same beans, same chocolate maker. If you looked at these bars on a shelf and you were just going, I'm going to grab a 70% bar, you wouldn't realize until you tasted it that these had very different flavor profiles.
They are very different.
Yeah. And so that last one.
You are blowing my mind here. All right, last one is
I
the dark roast. I know, I'm sure you didn't see this coming. Dark roast. By the way, this is the Curiosity Desk. We are with Victoria Kichun from Cocoa Bean Town, learning all about how to properly buy and eat chocolate, actually. We're going to try a little dark roast. It's a little more bitter, but it's not bitter. I wouldn't say it's bitter, but it's like a little bit more bitter, if that makes sense. I am so bad at tasting chocolate, folks.
No, it's okay. It's not necessarily instinctual. We're not used to talking about what we taste when we have
it's
food.
True.
And yet we're all wonderfully weird humans that go through these experiences and we keep it in our heads going, oh, no one's going to understand where I'm coming from. But that's why we should talk about it.
It's more fudgy. It's like more like a brownie or fudge or something like that.
It has a deeper sort of
deeper,
flavor tone.
for sure.
You're not working with that brightness that you had with the first light roast.
And it's very different from, if I think back to the first one, the light roast versus this, they taste like two completely different things. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That is unbelievable.
And again, all three, 70% dark chocolates, but that roasting profile brings out or emphasizes or de-emphasizes different flavor notes that weren't naturally in the bean.
What about the cacao itself? Like where it comes from, or are there varieties of that? Does that make a difference here too?
Absolutely. Part of why Peru is so special to the history and the origins of cacao is about something like 74% of the total genetic diversity in the botanical plant can be found in Peru.
Oh, wow.
Which means that it's likely that's where it began. So when you have genetic diversity, you have all these different adaptations relative to where the tree is actually developing, right? So you have in the north where I was just a couple weeks ago, there's an area called Piura, which is an arid climate, which is very different than the Amazon jungle area. The river basin there is very humid and hot. You have cacao growing with more or less water, more or less pests, differences in astringency, natural fat. It's kind of amazing. It really is a magical plant.
Incredible stuff. All right, well, there's more chocolate that you've brought along here.
Yes.
So, we don't have all that much time left, so let's get into some more chocolate
Yes,
eating.
we should. It's your birthday coming up, so we want to...
How did somebody find this out? What is happening?
So we have two 79% bars, okay?
Yep.
This one and this one. But one is called a Vrae 15.
Vrae, that's VRAE 15. What is a Vrae 15?
So that's one of the genetic varietals. This is a
cool.
a little map that has some of those genetic profiles. And so that's one type of bean. And then you can taste a 79%, again, from the same maker, from the same estate, with a chuncho bean, which is a different genetic
Okay,
profile.
so this time we've got same percentage, but rather than a difference in roasting, it's a difference in the bean.
Absolutely.
All right, first one. There we go. Different. I don't want to say waxy, but not waxy, but not in a bad way.
No, there's
It's
sort
like
of,
contained somehow.
there has a different sort of forward note to it that has something a little bit closer to like a grassiness, I would say, which can sometimes make your palate, sort of trigger that. But once it starts to melt.
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting to let it melt. I'm supposed to just bite and then just, like, let it melt. I'm like, chomp, 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 chomp.
It's okay. It's our natural instinct because we're like, we want more chocolate, right? But as it coats your palate, it kind of opens up to red fruit tones.
Yep.
Yeah, when it comes through, it's kind of amazing. I think my favorite comment.
I am kind of shocked how different these all are. Really, I don't want to say that I was coming in skeptical, but like a little bit, I was like, it's all going to taste like chocolate, but like they're really pretty different.
Yeah. I see. Being a chocolate sommelier is not the most common job. But there is a reason why people like me exist, because there's a wonderful world to chocolate that people don't start learning about unless they come see people like me.
What is wrong with us? What is stopping us? All right, let's try this. So this second one
Try
is
the chuncho.
Chuncho.
Yeah, and again, these are all chocolates that were made from beans grown in Peru, made by Peruvian makers. Really incredible stuff going on in that country.
All right. I'm trying. Come on, brain. Find some. I don't know. What
So, sometimes the flavor wheels are helpful when we have, like, difficulty putting a word to it. Because, again, it's not always instinctual. But this one opens up very differently. That grassy note is not there.
It totally is not there.
It's a little more fudgy.
Yep.
Right? You have also a change as it opens up when it starts melting, because I like to call these peaks and valleys of flavor, right?
Yeah.
So you're bringing your palate's going on a journey. We're sitting here in the Boston Public Library having a taste of Peru through our palate, which is it's
kind of amazing.
Yeah, transformative, really.
All right, let's get one more piece of chocolate.
Okay, this last one is actually made with a botanical cousin of chocolate. So it's
What?
not made with Theobroma cacao. It's made with something called Copo Asu, which is in the Theobroma category, but it's a cousin botanically of chocolate.
So this isn't actually...
It's like chocolate adjacent.
All right, we're being joined right now by Jared Bowen of The Culture Show, which is coming up. Jared, do you want some chocolate? Do you want to get in on this?
Do want it.
Yeah.
Did I look that desperate? They're all fully labeled, too.
Yeah, wow.
Which one should I start with? The medium roast? Light roast? Dark roast?
What do you normally go for in chocolate?
Dark roast.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll try that. This is fantastic.
This is unbelievable chocolate.
And it's not super acidic bitter either.
Nope.
See, you're way better at talking about it than I am. I'm like, it tastes like chocolate.
Yeah, this is beautiful, gorgeous. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you liked it.
All right.
What did you think of the kaposu?
It's different.
It's so different,
It's-
right?
Yeah. Jared, you got to try this one. We'll get to you to try that one in a minute.
Okay.
And we will. I want to say thank you to Victoria Kichun, CocoBeantown.com. She is a chocolate sommelier. Who knew it existed? Now we all know. Victoria, thanks again for being with us. This is amazing.
Thank you.
And Jared, back to you. You've got the Culture Show coming up right here at the Boston Public Library in just a few minutes. What do you got going on today?
Well, first of all, I have to apologize because I'm now talking with a chocolate mouthful. So I'll just tuck it in the back of my mouth for the experience that continues. Yeah. So we're talking about BTS. Of course, they have big news this week because they announced that they are not going to submit their latest album for the Grammys. Of course, this is huge, a big protest because they are one of the biggest bands on the planet.
In the world, yeah.
We'll talk about why they're boycotting the Grammys. We'll talk about Nantucket, which has a store that just posted a influencers sign.
Interesting.
And that has drawn out influenza, I guess we could say, because it is raging through the island as it goes viral. And then Zendaya just recently wore some earrings that got a lot of attention because people recognize that they were Iranian artifacts from 3,000 years ago. So in what circumstances is it appropriate or just wholly inappropriate to take artifacts like that and wear them as jewelry?
All right, that is the Arts and Culture Week in Review on the Culture Show with Jared Bowen coming your way in less than 2 minutes. That's on the air here, that's on the stream, and that's right here at the Boston Public Library. As for us, that about does it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, and Hannah Loss. Our intern is Mukta Dharma Purakar. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna source many of our sweet ideas. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Massawa, Matty Geyer, Bill Francis, Patrick Lally, our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe, the fabulous team at the Lennox across the street, our security folks, and all of you who came out to join us here at the Boston Public Library. We love to see you. We'll be right back on Monday here on 89.7, streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, we got a podcast version of the show. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, and I hope you will all stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and members of the GBH Champions and Beacon Circles. These most generous annual contributors lead the way in sustaining GBH as a public media resource available and free to all. Learn more at gbh.org/support.
After 11 seasons of murder, mystery, and mayhem in the seemingly quiet village of Grantchester, how will everyone's favorite vicar-turned-detective say goodbye? Don't miss the series finale of Grantchester Sunday at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
From the GBH newsroom in Boston, I'm Craig Lamolt. John Barrows, interim director of the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, has stepped away from the team selected to build a new courthouse in Springfield. It comes after critics argued he represented a conflict of interest for developer Liberty Junction. NEPM's Phil Bishop reports.
Since winning the bid, Liberty Junction has become the target of speculation on whether the selection process for a new Springfield courthouse was the result of insider politics. Barrows was a principal of the group. Still involved is Conan Harris, husband of U.S. Representative Ayanna Pressley. In a statement, Barrows said he chose to leave the development group, quote, because my involvement has been targeted by those who place personal gain above the community. At a press conference on new funding for the Mass Mutual Center, Barrows declined to comment on leaving Liberty Junction, citing ongoing litigation. A lawsuit brought by two developers not selected for the project is ongoing. In response to Barrows' divestment, Jeb Belize and Dinesh Patel said in a joint statement, quote, the only fair remedy is to set aside this award and redo the procurement.
That was NEPM's Phil Bishop for Connecting the Commonwealth. In sports, the Red Sox continue their West Coast swing tonight, opening a series against the Angels. In the forecast, partly cloudy and near 80 degrees, partly cloudy tomorrow and low 80s, and it looks like clouds on Sunday, mid-80s. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, BTS is telling the Grammys, not today. The group will keep its new comeback album off the 2027 ballot after the Recording Academy created a new Asian pop category. BTS argues the prize could box Asian artists into a niche instead of putting them in contention for the Grammys' biggest awards. From there, it's a viral downward spiral. On Nantucket, the Four Winds Craft Guild hung a no influencers sign inside its boutique, pushing back against social media culture. Instead, it became an irresistible Instagram controversy, setting off a summer squall over influencer culture and island tourism. Plus, Barbara Lynch. She rose from a South Boston housing project to become one of the defining chefs of Boston dining. Then came the collapse of her restaurant group. But now she's back in the kitchen cooking up a culinary comeback few expected. And for Zendaya and jewelry, everything old is new again. She wore Iranian artifacts repurposed as earrings for a recent photo call, and now finds herself in the middle of a so-called treasure trading scandal. We'll talk about all the hoopla. All that and more right now on our Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show on 89.7 GBH and streaming live on the GBH News YouTube channel right here from our BPL studio at the Boston Public Library. I am Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
I'm Joyce Kulhawick.
We're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines. Body to Body will not be winning a Grammy. We know that already. That's because the group has pulled its entire comeback album, Arirang, from consideration. The move protests the Grammy's new Best Asian Pop Music Performance category, where K-pop, J-pop, C-pop, along with across Asia can now submit. BTS says the new category doesn't elevate Asian artists. Instead, it walls them off. But the Grammys argue the decision has been misconstrued and the category actually gives Asian artists more recognition. So this gathered major steam this week as people were watching this because, of course, the BTS comeback was huge. They had all served their compulsory military service. It was big news that they were back on the scene. It would be a big boon for the Grammys and the industry at large to see BTS in competition. But they made this decision saying that they feel that they are marginalized if they are to compete in these categories.
They're not wrong. So this is Grammy history and strategy and structure. When they started, there were categories, and artists of color have had a hard time getting in the category. So what they decided over time was to subdivide categories. And then what would happen is those artists who then were marginalized to some degree would have an opportunity to win. Now, that doesn't mean that the nominations went up, the percentage of nominations. So I'll just give an example. From 2012 to 2020, 27% of the nominations were for folks of color, even though they were 38% of the hot Billboard charts, which normally is where you'd get your folks who would be getting nominations. So you're asking, well, how does that happen? So if you think about the gospel category, come on, black people sing gospel, okay?
They do?
Yes, they do, Joyce. And there's like 1,500 categories. No, I'm exaggerating. So in 1962, there was just a gospel and other religious recording category. In 1969, guess what? Ding, 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 Grammys went to Best Soul Gospel Performance. And guess who that was for? And then since then, they've even subdivided it more to, in 1978, traditional and contemporary. And same thing, Beyonce won the Best Country Album, as you all know, after much controversy, after a long time of being snubbed, right? 4 months later, now there is a Best Contemporary Country Album and a Best Traditional Country Album. So BTS is like, we see it, and we don't like it, and we're not doing it. And guess what? We're going to take our biggest asset, us, off this stage and out of these categories. See how you like me now.
You know, you make a very compelling case. I mean, I do feel like, though, that if you subdivide these categories and keep subdividing these categories, there's just going to be, that's going to be an 18-hour-long show.
Well, there's
it
that
gets
too.
really unwieldy. So the question is where to draw the line. And also, does it marginalize Asian artists or does it recognize them? That's really, that's another question. And the question underneath all of this for me always is, should artists be in competition with one another anyway? You know, I mean, and it kind of flies in the face of the theme of BTS's last album, which is about unity and universality. And, you know, so they clearly don't object to competing. They just feel they're being disadvantaged in the competition. I'm looking at what CEO Harvey Mason Jr. says, and he says that these genre spotlights, and let's face it, there are 95 award categories, all divided by style and by genre. There's from Latin to R&B and all these gospel categories and classical.
And now new country.
And now new country and traditional country. But it does not block artists, so this is a quote, from competing in general field categories like Album of the Year, but it instead adds an extra pathway for visibility for Asian
So
artists.
let me
so
come
that's
in,
the question.
because I have a nuanced view on this too. I also think you make a very compelling argument, Callie, but I wonder if this is actually opening up opportunity, because to follow what the CEO said, that this is inviting more submissions, more artists to enter into these categories, knowing that they can very definitely go into the general categories, again, of best pop album and whatnot, recognizing that they've expanded some of the categories in the past couple of years for African music, for example. So yes, on the one hand, there's a concern that there are too many categories, but if they are making an effort to be more expansive and to lure more artists into submission categories, and this is also an effort on the Grammys' part to be more global and recognizing that they need to serve all the world, that they're also drawing in artists who can have a greater platform. At least that seems to be the intention. It'll bear out whether they make it into those final categories. But so on the one hand, I think this is a business decision because they make more money the more submissions they have, but they're also bringing in more people into the tent.
Well, I always want more recognition for these categories and for people who are likely not to get it.
Yeah.
Now, so let me say that. I'm not trying to stop that. However, the Grammys history is right there for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much racialized categories, and if it were another group, maybe I could feel it and go with it. But everybody knows. Okay, we haven't voted yet. Nobody's voted yet. Nobody's nominated yet. But everybody knows they were about to blow out all the categories with this album. All the categories. It was going to be BTS. Okay? So it wasn't going to be a question of whether they needed an Asian group. They were blowing out all the categories. So now you do this and BTS says, we're not going for it. All these other people.
So you're saying, they're being a little disingenuous.
Well, no,
here.
I'm saying that I'm saying that the Grammys know good and well that this is a way for them to control how the progress of certain groups.
But we also know, and it doesn't necessarily bear out, just like the Academy Awards for the Oscars has added more diversity in terms of voting, doesn't necessarily bear out. It depends year to year. We also know that the Grammys have added more high-profile Asian musicians to its voting rolls. So
they are all members, by the way,
right,
of the Grammy
exactly.
voting
So you would
board.
like to think that with this more representation behind the scenes as well, this would have an impact. And this, of course, follows the music of K-pop Demon Hunters last year, although the majority of the works were in English, so I'm not sure they would have even merited being entered into these new Asian categories. But I do have to say, I want to give the benefit of the doubt on this one.
I think we have to give some credence to their intent. I don't think the intent was just purely monetary. You're looking at me askance.
No, because Jared knows my mantra.
I
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, but I do think
I
do think that the intention here was to widen the field.
I don't know.
I do think that
I might have gone with that.
And I do think that
Joyce.
always institutions, let me just finish the thought, like the Grammys, like the Oscars, are always a few steps behind the zeitgeist.
I agree with that.
And so this has to organically come up, and maybe this is a good idea on the part of BTS. They've never won a Grammy before, and this won't happen again. This won't happen this year. But I think that in time, maybe there'll be a few more categories. But I think it's a little precious
I would
of them
believe
to
it
do
if
that.
it wasn't the Grammys, and if it wasn't 4 months after Beyonce wins the country album award, then all of a sudden they have 2 new categories. Come on, y'all.
Well, the one thing we know from the Culture Show is that these things are not hard and fast. The discussion evolves, so maybe this will change. We'll continue to follow it. We don't normally have this much confrontation on the show as we come from different viewpoints. I love it. So, now more to more disappointing news on the music front. Instead of the summer of fun, it has become the summer of glum.
Feel it again, edge of the bed, body and head protesting, my stomach's in knots.
Okay, we don't want to make everybody's stomach in knots, but we're listening to Less off of Olivia Rodrigo's latest album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. It's just one album among a wave of new releases turning summer pop decidedly blue. The last few years of hot girl summer and brat summer have given way to sad girl summer, as some of pop's biggest female stars are singing about heartbreak, anxiety, and political dread. Gracie Abrams is lamenting the impact of wildfires. Ariana Grande says we're all beleaguered by bad news. And Charlie XCX is declaring the dance floor dead. As we know, the arts, culture, entertainment, it all reflects our world. It's what Shakespeare said. We're giving the mirror for society to look back at itself. And this is being reflected almost in real time by artists releasing these albums right now. Theater, it takes a little bit longer. It takes several years for pieces to reach the stage. So we'll see what playwrights right now are thinking about this moment in a few years, how they may be documenting this time. Visual artists, of course, can create the work, but it may be taking a few years to get to museum walls. But we see what the singers are doing right now.
Well, what I think is interesting is some of the sad girl songs were characterized by the breakups of, the personal breakups. And Olivia Rodrigo, unbeknownst to me, I noticed the song was sad, but I didn't know she was breaking up with this guy, British actor Louis Partridge. And, she, like Taylor Swift, will write about all her stuff. So there's part of that. But then the other issues that you raise that they're all writing about, I appreciate that, and I hope that they don't get marginalized in this way, because all of the people in the sad girl summer are sad girls, and generally they're not listened to in the same way with the same weight when they're talking about these global issues in this way.
Well, they're not all sad for the same reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of them have a political sensibility, like Gracie Abrams, wildfires, lack of political leaders to look up to, and then you've got Olivia Rodrigo, whose boyfriend ran off with this blonde. That's I did a little deep dive on that.
What's wrong with him?
Anyway, well, I don't know if that was before or after, but in any case, and then Lizzie McAlpin,
yes,
is being very introspective, etc. But all of these artists channel the zeitgeist. They have very porous boundaries, and we're so glad they do, because this is what we look to our artists for. And I can't say I disagree. Every day I get up to one more horror story after another, and it takes every bit of everything I have to stay optimistic and focused. But it always helps to have artists channel what's being felt, so it's seen and we can deal with what it is.
Well, what I think is interesting, too, is there's actually a tie back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Madonna and her new album, Confessions on a Dance Floor, which is not at all what we're talking about. It's very upbeat. You have people dancing and just expending energy. But there have been studies that show, speaking of reflecting society, that dance music tends to evolve in times of crisis. So coming out of Stonewall and the turmoil of the 1960s, that gave us disco in the 70s. The last time we saw dance music really thrive was the Great Recession of the 1990s and into the 2000s, and now here we have Madonna leading the charge for dance music again. So this is a physical expression that some people want to take, while also, as people go interior, as these singers that we've just talked about have done, it is the summer of the sad music.
And it hasn't stopped Taylor Swift from getting married and having the biggest wedding on the planet.
She's not sad at all.
Yeah, but she used to be
not
sad.
Not at all. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I think it's interesting that not interesting, but kudos to them, because you can write a sad song and it's kind of boring. These are good. I mean, you gotta start there.
Sad songs are always
Not
good.
necessarily.
Well, wait, how does it go? Sad
them.
songs say so much.
No, you know.
Well,
I'm thinking the last
songs.
sad song that I really loved is Boys to Men.
Oh,
you know.
yeah. I'm thinking Adele. Hello.
Oh, well, that's there.
Oh, my
that's true.
God.
That's
Oh,
true.
my God. You
That's
know,
a good
just,
one.
I love the sad songs, the melancholy Irish, all of them. Because underneath it all, you know, we all have, especially now, this sense of, you know, melancholy and sadness, which needs to get expressed and out so we can move on and dance.
Well,
There it
something.
is.
Well, I have a marketing tip for ice cream people. Link up with some of these songs. Make a theme.
So you pick up your Haagen-Dazs on the way home?
That is correct. You're on my page
Cry
now.
into your double scoop.
There you go. Work with me. Work with me.
No, as a big ice cream lover, as a documented ice cream lover for the guests we often have on this show, yeah, I'm totally with you, Kelly. All right, well, while we're talking about summer songs and sadness, the music world lost Glenn Hansard this week. The 56-year-old musician and actor died Wednesday in a motorcycle crash near Dublin. The Irish singer-songwriter went from busking on the streets of Dublin to fronting the frames and starring opposite Mareta Irglova in the 2007 film Once. Together, they wrote, performed, and won an Oscar for their song, Falling Slowly.
Take this sinking boat and port it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You have a choice. You make it now.
Oh.
That's a great song.
Earworm.
I mean-
Instant earworm. Once you hear it, you
I know.
cannot get this out of your head.
And Once, of course, later moved from the screen to the stage, where it won 8 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. Earworm, indeed. I remember seeing the film so early on when it was released. Remember, it came out of Sundance, and people thought, my goodness, this extraordinary small film has just been made, and it became so successful. I saw it early on, and that song has stayed with me for the rest of my life. It is one of my all-time favorite songs. I was crushed when I heard the news this week. I saw Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova perform at the Orpheum when they went out on tour shortly after the film. They were magnetic. They actually had a relationship that didn't last all that long, although they remained artistic partners through much of their career. But he was a really extraordinary person for the way he used music in our society, from busking all the way up to winning an Oscar.
You know, this is one of those things where I feel bad because just hearing his name did not register. But the minute anybody said the song, I knew exactly who he was, and knew the little short bio that I have of him. I always like to note when someone like this passes, who are the people who respond, and that really tells you where he was in the music world. This is Ed Sheeran and Bruce Springsteen saying they were heartbroken, not just sad, rest in peace, but heartbroken. So that says a lot about who he was as a person and also his talent as a musician. That it just is so sad.
And you can add Bono into that category as well. So we're talking about global musicians who respected this guy for his musicianship.
Yes.
And also for the warmth and graciousness of this man, for his humanity. He apparently used to do this Christmas busking show,
That's
which
great.
raised lots of money for homeless people. And his own rise to fame was really unexpected. He showed up in an audition apparently with a friend for the movie The Commitments, and they I guess they cast the friend, but they looked at him. He was 20 years old. He had red hair and played the guitar, and they were looking for that guy, and they cast him, and his whole career ended up sort of being like that. And then this low-budget film Once, takes off and then becomes a Tony Award-winning musical.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and he remained incredibly humble throughout. So you're right. When I heard his name, I thought, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
And then I realized who he was and how unacknowledged some people are for the great things that they do in this way. Yeah.
And he
But
didn't, because he didn't necessarily pursue it. He wasn't part of that whole PR machine. He just did this. And I think it goes back to what he thought about busking. And by the way, Joyce, I love reading that too, that he would do these Christmas Eve busking concerts in Dublin to raise money, because he saw the street as the equalizer. This is where it could be totally democratic. Yes, people could malign you, but it didn't really matter because if you're on the street performing, you're just like everybody else. And everybody who has conviction to step out there on the sidewalk and take out their instrument and just perform for the sake of performing because you're not getting a salary or anything of that nature, it just showed who he remained throughout his career. And the opposite of what you said, Callie, who spoke about him, the people he spoke about were Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan. Those were his chief influences.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, it kind of really makes you think about the randomness of these tragedies. He's 57 years old,
With a
56
3-year-old.
years old, with a 3-year-old.
Yeah, that's
Makes you
just-
think, oh, we want to live our best life every day because
Yeah.
we're all hanging by a thread. Not to be too depressing.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
But nobody gets out of here alive. Live the best life you can every second.
You
Hey,
went too
Joyce,
far
there's
into
some-
that sad girl summer research.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I said there's some women
No,
who have a
it's-
song for you, Joyce.
All right, well, coming up, influencers are seeing Nantucket red, how a shopkeeper's tongue-in-cheek anti-social media sign went viral and sparked a picture-perfect fight over influencer culture. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Next time on In Common, communities across Massachusetts are drawing the line against data centers.
They are not supplying any service. They're not a job creator in our community. They're a destroyer of our community.
We dig into the issue and look inside the Markley Data Center in Lowell. Plus, 2 different shades of blue vying for a seat in the U.S. Senate.
But it looks like a really competitive race.
All that and more on In Common. Listen Saturday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Neville Place Assisted Living in Cambridge, providing residents with a range of services designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. More at nevilleplace.org/care. And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts now through August 7th at New England Conservatory. mmb.international. And Subaru of New England. The all-wheel drive 2026 Subaru Outback is designed for summer adventures. Subaru retailer locations at subaruofnewengland.com.
The GBH News app is your home for trusted local news, so you can get the news you need and get on with the rest of your day. Come for a quick scroll, not a doom scroll. Download the GBH News app today on the App Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH YouTube channel. We're coming to you live from the Boston Public Library studio, and I'm joined by Culture Show co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhawick, an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association, and you can find her reviews on joyceschoices.com. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Nantucket, where the most influential thing on the island may be a sign banning influencers. Four Winds Craft Guild hung an artfully appointed sign reading "No Influencers" in its shop. No surprise, the warning went viral, bringing the shop the exact kind of online attention it was trying to keep at bay. Influencers fired back, locals rallied behind the store, and Nantucket is split over who crossed the line. So, let me just lay out where this stands, because you have a store that was recognizing that it had basically become a stage and a set. We know that things in Nantucket aren't exactly large. Everything is kind of small and island scale. So if you have people coming in with their cameras and their entourage and they're using your store to film a couple of bits about how much they're living the best life in Nantucket and taking up the whole store space without really looking at anything, buying anything, or even talking to the shopkeepers and then moving on, you feel entitled to put up a sign that says "No Influencers." But they had somebody reach out, Paige Lorenz, who is a big influencer who just opened her own brick and mortar store on the island, saying you're disparaging influencers, and namely you're disparaging young women because the majority of influencers are women, and how dare you. So that's where we stand.
Yeah.
Well, I was unaware that the majority of influencers are young women.
Same
So I'm okay, Paige. You're in the business, so I'm trying not to question you. But I guess I've seen a lot of different folks, so I didn't know that. But I'll let you have that point. I'm speaking of Paige now. But I will say that this feels to me, now we called it a tongue-in-cheek sign. I don't know about that. I didn't take it that way. Ooh. I think they were very serious about it because of all the reasons you said. By the way, the kinds of artifacts that they have in their store that they're selling, this is artisan, craft, and antique, it is really expensive. Mm-hmm. So you have people tromping around in there, and then you have to double, triple watch because, theft and all of that. That's a lot. And if something is touted online as, whoa, this is the best place to go, I've seen this happen, you've seen this happen, people go. So influencers do have influence. So having said that, this comes now after Coachella, where there were a number of creator influencers who were 24 hours to 48 hours before they were all expenses paid to go to Coachella and be the influencers that they are, had all their stuff canceled.
Yeah.
There were excuses made. That some people said budget, these fashion brands and these other agencies. Some people said not enough space. Some people said, international processing delays for those who had that.
Okay, that was all. Influencers were canceled by the people sponsoring them?
That is correct.
Okay.
So what was to be all expense paid trip for all of these people, some of them with names folks know. I didn't know these. Yasmin, Marzilia, Kelsey Couture, Tiara Nelson, just to name a few, it was canceled. And some people felt pretty good about that.
Yeah.
And so I say this is the long tail of the anti-influencers sentiment in the way that some of them operate. Now listen, some of these people have spent a lot of time really educating themselves about the particular arena that they cover.
Yeah, those
and they
are not
good.
called influencers.
Well, they have to end up with influence.
Critics. Those are called experts.
They
Those
end up
are
with
called
influence.
scholars.
All
yes.
right.
So this horrible term, influencers,
Yes.
also encompasses a whole bunch of idiots who have no expertise.
I cannot disagree.
They simply have followers because they are famous for being famous. Their currency is
And it's a
peddling
lot
their
of
influence.
retail and
they
stuff
may
in there.
have no
Yeah.
knowledge. They
Right.
may have no experience. They're often paid advertisers. They disseminate a lot of misinformation. It is the opposite of authentic experiences. I have to tell you about an experience I had in Thailand recently. Just got back from Southeast Asia. We sat down at this lovely restaurant. A couple of very young people next to us ordered up this whole incredible dinner. One item of which was something we wanted, and we were told they were out of it. So I think they ordered the last order. They took 2 or 3 bites, took pictures, got up, and left. The food was dumped. It was a waste.
Yeah.
It was not. These are not food critics.
Yes.
These are people taking pictures to purvey some kind of superficial lifestyle. I can't stand the whole thing. No offense to anybody who genuinely knows what they're talking about, but this moniker does not encompass those people. They should have other titles.
I love that this store put up
Yes.
this sign because I think it's engendering the exact conversation that we're having right now, because I think there are distinctions. Yes, there are critics who are out there who are online. We're
Yes.
Is
2 of
Deborah
those.
First
Yes.
a critic
But we're
or
not
an influencer?
We're not the same age group,
Yes.
but we're out there doing this. Then you have people who are building entire businesses. That's great. If you're building and you're not looking for investors, but you're manufacturing something that's getting out into the world and it's resonating with people, that's fantastic. But I also have a problem, and maybe it's an age thing, I don't know, but I have a problem with this vacuous nature of this. We see it in the museums. It's fine. It's fine if you're in a museum and you don't look at the painting, but you just take a picture of it or you make some snarky comment about it and then walk away. That's your choice, but it just feels so empty. But everybody has a place everywhere. But when it comes in mass and it begins to change society, like the town in Vermont that had to restrict people and close roads because too many people were showing up for fall foliage just so they could document themselves being in front of the leaves.
That's right.
Or if you have the cafe in Brooklyn that had to shut people down because they were coming in there and using that as a set too. We are reaching this moment where there is a huge disconnect in society about what you value and what you are just making entirely about yourself.
Yeah,
and for people who will turn around
Or for
and
commercial purposes.
ask
Yeah,
the store for
commercial.
freebies, or ask the restaurant
That's
for
right.
freebies, or the hotel for
And
freebies.
with no advance notice, they
Right.
just come in and invade. And maybe
Right.
you don't want your store or your restaurant or whatever it is. It is absolutely undercutting an authentic experience of people who want to be there for, I'm going to say, the right reasons. Not because it's the place to be, but because maybe they're genuinely interested in arts and crafts and antiques and whatever.
And I will say, you've hit on something. The lack of authenticity is, I think, pushing this long tail, because people are using the word phony more than they had in the past when directed toward people who are, taking 2 bites of the fish or whatever and leaving. So I think that the store not only provoked a conversation, but made a statement about who they wanted to be.
Do
what
we
they're
know
do.
whether they put the sign? I thought it was just a sign that they were selling. I didn't think it was a
No, it's
prohibited
hanging.
sign.
It's hanging in the store.
I saw it hanging, but it's all beautifully framed up, and it looks like a lot of other signs on
It's
the
well
wall. And I thought,
ornamented,
you know what? I want to buy that sign if it's for sale. But I don't think they meant it as a "do not come in here if you're an influencer." I don't know though. Do we know the answer to that?
Yes, we do know the answer. That's what they meant.
That is what
I
they
was
meant.
just agreeing.
Are you
with
sure this isn't the cynical Callie?
No. I was just I was pushing back against tongue in cheek, because I don't think it was tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I think they were making a statement. And by the way, you probably could purchase it, but stuff begins at $1,000 in that store.
Yeah.
That's just a.
Well,
that's
I'll just tell
a-
them I'm an influencer, and then,
To give it to you.
they'll just give it to me. Yeah.
All right, and also the other great thing about that store, they didn't back down.
That it did
as
not.
they were getting this
Good.
viral onslaught,
Yeah.
they did not back down.
That is
That's
true.
rare these days.
That is true.
Well, next, Barbara Lynch rose from a South Boston housing project to become one of the defining chefs of Boston dining. Her Number 9 Park restaurant helped reshape the city's fine dining scene. Her empire grew to include B&G Oysters, Menton, and the Butcher Shop, which also drew national acclaim. Then came allegations from former employees of workplace abuse, which Lynch denied, not to mention lawsuits and a drunk driving arrest. Her restaurants closed, and by the end of 2024, the celebrated group she'd built was gone. But now news this week that Lynch is returning to the kitchen. Next month, she'll host 2 private dinners in Manchester by the Sea, part of a new venture that could also include intimate dinners, recipe subscriptions, and culinary tours. I'm heartened by this because I think that everybody deserves and gets a comeback. Everybody gets to have bad experiences in life and try to turn it around. I'm not going to go through the workplace allegations and things of that nature, but I think that she, to some extent, has agreed that alcohol played a very negative part in her life. And one of the things that she did was turn to art. If you go to her website now, you'll see how she has spent a major portion of the last year or two painting, and this is actually integrated into these experiences that she's curating both within the kitchen and on the walls of the studio where she's hosting these dinners. So she lost the empire that she had, but she's coming back in a small way and building back, and I'm very heartened by this story, I have to say.
Well, she's probably going to be successful at it. One of my other long-standing mantras, talent forgives. So there's a lot of room for extra graciousness around people who come with a set of talents to begin with. Even with, if there were alleged bad behavior, we all know that. We've seen that. I'll just tell this story. A friend's daughter held a little party at Menton for her mother, just a small set of friends. I'd never been, so this was exciting. We all went, and I'm sitting next to one of the other guests, and one of the first courses was some kind of little lobster or something or other, and she said to me, "I hate lobster. I ate all of it, and I want to eat yours." That's how good it was.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just saying.
I love the idea that you just brought up by saying when people come in with a lot of talents. I mean, I am big on Barbara Lynch coming back because she is the genuine article. That woman can cook. That woman is a genuine entrepreneur. She apparently is quite an artist. I took a look at some of what she did, and she online, and it's beautiful, it's vivid, it's colorful. She also has a lot of knowledge to impart, and her whole approach to food is one I very much subscribe to, which is fewer ingredients, elegantly treated, fresh, and as opposed to what a lot of pretend chefs do, which is to pile in every single spice and herb and whatever, thinking, oh, complexity means being a great chef or means being a gourmet. No, the hard thing to do is to drill down on what's really good. And she knows the woman can really cook. I love, and I hate the thought that anyone would be defined by their worst moments. And there's way more to Barbara Lynch than what we've seen. So I love that we're going to be able to eat her food again, even if it's in a private setting, see her art. She's branching out in other ways. And I also, forgive me for going on, but she was the first chef to be an artist in residence at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. That's incredible. She looked at the art by flashlight and then started painting some of it, and then made pasta in the shapes of some of the things she saw, like birds, etc. No, this is a real artist on so many
Well, I have
levels.
to say, so she's living on the North Shore, as we said, with Manchester by the Sea. That's where these dinners will be held, or Manchester, as I guess it's known now. I think they dropped the by the sea part.
Oh, dear.
But her art reminded me of Milton Avery's work, and we see his work on view right now at the Cape Ann Museum. And I think the boldness is the theme of this show today, is everything from BTS to Barbara Lynch. And she had to storm forward growing up in South Boston. If you read her memoir, you see that it was not by any stretch an easy childhood. In fact, it was an incredibly difficult childhood. But she stormed forth in this industry, and she was one of the key figures to change this town. We think of ourselves as a foodie town now. Now we have Michelin stars here.
Yes.
One of the major people we have to thank for that is Barbara Lynch. That is something we cannot forget.
And her absence has left a gaping hole on the scene still, along with Gordon Hammersley and Jasper White. I miss all of what she does, and I'll take it back in any form it's coming. I'd love to take a food trip with her, which is something that she's going to be doing, I guess, in France and Italy coming up. And
that would be very
And I don't cook, but I love reading recipes. And you can subscribe to her recipes, and she'll send them along with paintings. Now, this is fantastic. I love her. Go, Barbara Lynch.
Yes, exactly. We're rooting for her. Next Love at First Bite. A Tewksbury couple, Jessica Bosworth and Jesse Rosenwald, met while bartending in Boston and bonded over cooking. After a decade together, they entered MasterChef as a team and won season 15 along with its $250,000 prize. Then, at a season finale watch party last year, Rosenwald proposed, so MasterChef called with another offer. Would they let Gordon Ramsay marry them on television in a castle? This week, the couple returned to the show to say "I do," with Ramsay officiating and this season's contestants cooking the wedding feast. And Callie, you, in your own living room, were among their guests.
I love them from last season. I followed them through the whole season. They are just delightful, and they can cook. I mean, I watch a lot of food shows, and the Boston-ness of both of them was so on point and visible for everybody. They really, their seafood is their thing, so they were able to represent the region in ways. And you talk about understanding how to subtract when you are making fine dining dishes. They did that really well. They were innovative, they were clever, and they worked together. And that Boston accent was ever present. I mean, they're just a delightful couple.
You know, I don't watch the show. I don't watch a lot of cooking shows, but what popped out for me was them. I mean, I at first thought, oh, who would get married on television by Gordon Ramsay, even if you like to cook? I mean, you know, this private moment. But those two are so, talk about authentic.
Yes.
Genuinely in love with each other. Love being on the air, and they do it
and
so
love
well.
Food.
Love food and love to cook, love the whole format. That they were just,
and the other contestants were, you know, they were very friendly with.
Absolutely.
So they were a part of the ceremony.
They were really absolutely
really lovely. It was fun.
They were beaming. I just thought it was great, and I think they should do their own show. It would be a huge, huge hit, and also, you know, help Boston. They should base it here.
I bet you that's not far from him. And there are also couple goals. When they were at the height of intensity, the minutes and seconds are going down. Babe, should you put that there? I don't know, babe. What about just take this?
I love it.
Babe, I think we want to take that off.
No,
It was just great. So just watch last season to see them in their fullness.
So they can have a restaurant, they can have a marriage counseling business.
Well, they have a business now called J Eats to represent both of them, and they're doing private dinners, and they're making these pan pizzas for bars in the area where they. I mean, I expect to see a lot of
South Shore Pizza. This is what they're looking at. This is what they want to use the $250,000 prize for. I didn't realize this, that South Shore had its own pizza where the crust is akin to a cracker, and so they want to get it out into frozen pizza land in supermarkets.
I love it.
And,
They've got
and really
big
spread
ideas.
this far and wide.
They want to sell a lot of, they want to purvey a lot of Italian goods and all kinds of things. No, they're
they
fantastic.
executed well,
yes.
and they're cute.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's fun to talk about good things. Well, coming up, the earring cycle, how ornamental gold discs from Iran survived 3,000 years, then landed Zendaya in a red carpet controversy. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
A deadly attack on a Berlin Pride event last weekend has raised big questions about how best to prevent extremism.
He was obviously radicalized in German society, and we need to take responsibility for that and learn from those mistakes.
But there is no consensus on what exactly those mistakes are or what to do about them. Germany tries to rein in radicalism next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering dynamic short programs tailored for mid-career professionals looking to build expertise in innovation, leadership, and technology. Details at executive.mit.edu. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org. And Innuendo, open during the Massachusetts sales tax holiday, August 8th. Hunter Douglas's PowerView line of automated window treatments available for purchase. Hunter Douglas at Innuendo and innuendo.com.
From your neighborhood to your newsfeed, GBH News is your trusted source for the news that matters to you. Find us wherever you are at GBH News and always at GBH 89.7. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, this is The Culture Show coming to you from our studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhawick. We're going over the latest arts and culture headlines on our Week in Review, which includes a red carpet controversy. Zendaya arrived at a recent photo call wearing Iranian gold artifacts believed to be nearly 3,000 years old. They'd been repurposed as earrings, which turned heads and raised eyebrows as critics and historians questioned how archaeological treasures became blockbuster bling. See, this is what I get for trying to score alliteration in every single turn. So I have a nuanced view on this. So again, I'm just going to give the facts on this one. So Zendaya was given these earrings to wear at this photo call for the Odyssey. And they had come from a gallery in England, which has historically taken pieces it acquired, and we'll talk about the acquisition, that's where all of this comes into play, and repurposes them into different things. In this case, and if you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel, you'll see the earrings now. They say that they have been accented with diamonds, and they've been reconstructed in such a way that it is alterable. In other words, they haven't changed the discs themselves. But historians and archaeologists are rushing forward and saying, is it appropriate to be doing this to these pieces? Number two, how did you get these pieces? Because we're not convinced they weren't looted. And then other cultural critics are weighing in and saying, in what world is it appropriate for an American actress to be wearing something that has come from Iran at a moment when the U.S. is at war with Iran?
All things to consider.
Yeah, I'm not buying that last piece
about the Iranian part.
Yeah, the political overtones of something like this. I think that's a bit of an overreaction. But the main ethical issue is whether or not they were looted, and in fact, they were looted apparently by shepherds in the 1940s, and then they were sold to antique markets in Iran by Iranians. Okay, and then they ended up in various galleries and in private collections, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not having a big problem with the fact that the provenance has been documented as much as it can be documented. And the fact that they've been turned into earrings, to me, is fine. I can think of a million exhibits I've seen of ancient artifacts and trinkets and jewelry used in this way. And I think the intent here really, if you will, was to honor pieces from the ancient world. And we're talking about this and we're seeing these things. The provenance has been documented. So I think this is a bit precious of some people to be saying that this is a desecration of any kind. Yeah.
Well, the provenance has been documented, I guess. But when you loot, has it really been? You know what I mean? When you know it's looted and it's gone through. And these people, the folks that own it now, apparently have a history of turning some of these artifacts into jewelry. And, you know, that we could have a conversation about, is that appropriate, given that these are historical pieces? So I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, they have not been permanently marred, and that's an important point. They were careful about how they handled them. They said they used a very discreet clasp, and they were medallions to begin with, and they probably were used for ornamentation. We don't know.
Well, let me make my second point, which is this is a case where usually people around Zendaya are very protective of her. Somebody dropped the ball on this and should have said, stay away from this. You've got 50,000 other options. Do something else. Don't even put yourself in a situation. And I bet you she didn't even know all the backstory of this. And, you know, she prides herself on being a person who's thoughtful about these kinds of issues. Just stay out of it and do something else. So that... the last part you said about we're at war with Iran and what does this mean and blah, blah, blah. She didn't need that either.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not that's, you know,
the
appropriate.
optics of this are bad. And I wish Zendaya had been protected
My
a
take
little
on
bit
this
more,
is
but, you know.
we're just parsing everything into oblivion right now. And if they haven't been completely altered, if they went into the hands of this gallery, if it is proved that they gain them illegally off the black market, that's a whole other conversation, but we don't know that at this point. And I have suddenly found myself in the last couple of years in a different spot about artifacts. You'll find things like this in practically every major encyclopedic museum the world over. Not exactly like this, but you'll find artifacts and representation of these periods, of these empires in places. If these things are sold in the 1940s, now we're talking about what is looted almost a century ago, and we see them live on in present day and move into culture, and they're worn by a very celebrated actress where people are going to see this all over the world, and at least there's an understanding of art and how it was created 3,000 years ago. I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
so
but wait a minute.
I don't either.
But wait. I could go with that if she wore them and said, let's talk about the earrings I'm wearing and give you some history of what. That didn't happen.
Yeah, but she's doing it.
We're doing it.
She doesn't have to. She's in a photo
shoot. The
shoot.
only reason we're doing it is because it feels problematic to people. So that's why I'm saying the originality or the motivation for wearing the earrings did not, as you might suggest, come with all of that.
No. I wasn't suggesting she wear them to teach the world a lesson. I was saying if that happens as part of her wearing them, I think all the better.
Yeah.
Well, I say in a museum, okay. On her ears when it's just a little problematic, no.
I think that just because we're not talking about any old film she was promoting. This is a Homeric effort.
I get
Homeric epic made by an artist to keep this story alive in the world, and I think her wearing that was appropriate to this. Those earrings were also loaned to her. They were not sold, so there's no commercial profit to be made here off this. This was simply displaying something artful from the ancient world in support of something artful to celebrate and do a modern take on the ancient world.
I get all that.
I agree that some of the optics are bad, but I think we're PCing ourselves into oblivion.
I just think that may be the case, but everybody doesn't have the same ability to survive certain kinds of platform mistakes. And she's one. She's a big star.
She'll
She can
survive
go-
this.
She'll survive it. But what I'm saying to you is that's not a place where she wants to be given who she is. So I'm speaking for her without speaking to her.
Well, yeah, there's a little history because
You know,
Margot
but-
Robbie
Yeah.
wore a diamond jewel, I think it was from India
Yeah.
or something, to a recent premiere, to the Wuthering Heights premiere, and there was a lot of blowback to her too. So it does continue.
I think we
but
need Zendaya on the phone.
I guess,
We need her in the studio.
I guess I just
Let's call
like seeing
Tom
ancient
and see if he'll let us
art
on.
move forward. Well, finally, the American Pavilion that never was is now coming to Boston. Artist Robert Lazzarini and curator John Ravenel had been chosen to represent the United States at this year's Venice Biennale with History Maker, a show that features sculptures as distortions of familiar American symbols, including flags, George Washington, and a bald eagle. But the project collapsed before it could reach Venice after its institutional sponsor withdrew. Now the works will make their debut at the Mass Art Museum this fall. This is a very complicated story, and there are a lot of facts that we don't know because there are disputed notions about why this fell apart. But basically, the essence of this is the Venice Biennale is the Olympics of the art world. That's how it's described. The U.S. always has an official representative as an artist, and it was supposed to be this artist, Robert Lazzarini. And it's always put forward by people in the art world, and they work with the State Department. Well, with the Trump administration, this all fell through for reasons we don't completely understand, but maybe can speculate. The University of South Florida backed out when it was supposed to raise the money for this. The State Department said that it can no longer abide by DEI language as per the executive orders of the president. So this all fell by the wayside. Another artist was moved into the space, largely panned for his objects. Speaking of the bold theme that we have, I think it's very bold for the Mass Art Museum in this climate to say we're going to give this artist a platform for this show that will open at the Mass Art Museum at the end of September.
Yeah, I agree with that. This was just a big old mess.
Everything about this Biennale was a mess. I mean,
yes.
apparently, they objected to Russia and Israel being admitted. Then the jury who makes all the selections, they resigned. And then Trump comes in, takes the NEA out of the equation for deciding what will be
Which I
the
think
American
is the big
Pavilion.
issue.
Yeah, that's the big
yes, the
issue.
big issue.
And so the State Department came in and decided it's packed with Trump appointees, and they put new language, I guess, into the proposal, which said that works of art for this pavilion have to reflect and promote American values, and values that foster peaceful relations between the United States and other nations. So in a sense, they kind of kneecap what an artist means to do. If they want to make what we talked about, what artists do, they channel the zeitgeist. They make commentary. They observe what's really happening. And what's really happening here is what Lazzarini is doing in his art, which is there's a distortion of some kinds of American values and ideology, and I am so glad that he's going to have his day in the sun here at Mass Art. That's going to be great.
Not only is there a distortion, he's saying, there's a distortion using some symbols of Americanism and patriotism. So that's really interesting. I like this quote from Ravenel, his partner, saying, despite risk of looking like a mouthpiece for the current administration, sitting it out seemed like caving in. So they, pushed forward as much as they could, but now they have an opportunity to do what they were going to do in a space that is clearly supportive. So it'll be very interesting.
And if you want to hear more from John Ravenel, who is the curator of the show, was to be the curator at the Biennale, go back to the Culture Show podcast. I had him on the show about a month ago, and we talked through all of this. You can hear all the nuanced details, and we'll continue to cover that as it opens again at the end of September 30th at the Mass Art Museum. Well, now it is time for our weekend preview. These are the things we're looking forward to coming up in the week ahead. Callie, what's yours?
Soulful Bliss Arts and Music Festival, which I wasn't aware of before. Sounds fun. I mean, there are all these great festivals in the weekend, so I'm encouraging people to go, and hang out.
And I think, in addition to dining, because it's Dine Out Boston is just happening, but that's not my pick, although it's always my pick. I love to dine out. Yo-Yo Ma is headlining a special week-long residency out at Tanglewood. So if you haven't been there this summer, go. It's titled We the People, Our Shared Past, Present, and Future. and it's all curated by Yo-Yo Ma. There are going to be concerts, recitals, conversations. He's hosting Tanglewood on Parade, which includes the BSO and the Pops and the Tanglewood Music Center Orchestra. He's leading the cellists of the BSO in a special recital of ensemble cello works, and he's also leading an American Journey concert on Saturday, August 8th, with special guests John Baptiste, James Taylor, and Aoife O'Donovan, daughter of beloved Brian O'Donovan.
Yeah.
So get your tickets now. And by the way, the season tickets for the BSO just went on sale this morning for the fall. So the BSO is where it's at going forward.
And remember, it's just a short 2 hours to drive to Tanglewood. Everybody thinks it's way far away.
No, it's so quick and such a gorgeous drive.
It is. And mine is at the MFA. This is a show that's open only through Sunday, August 2nd. It's called Fazendo a America, Rosangela Reno, and Histories of Memory and Migration in Brazil. She's a Brazilian photographer who is or an artist and photographer. She's described as a photographer who doesn't take photographs because what she does is really often capture what is not necessarily seen in her own way. So she takes archives that have been deliberately destroyed or violated and makes major installation works out of them so we can understand what of our culture has been erased. One piece in particular that I thought was extraordinary was a triptych of 3 different eras in Brazil's history documenting the military rule, documenting protest, and documenting the present day where you have people crowding in the streets. And then she takes a camera lens, puts it on top of one of the photographs, and identifies one person. So it's also a commentary on surveillance. It is so fascinating to be immersed in the way she sees the world. Again, that's at the MFA only through Sunday, August 2nd. Well, thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in Monday for an overview of TV Goes to the Movies, a new series at the Brattle Theater featuring films that satirize, skewer, and salute television. Thanks today to Bill Piatatelli and Dave Goodman, our engineers, the BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, and Patrick Lally. Thanks to our security team, Darius and Derek, and to the Lennox Hotel and Newsfeed Cafe. Our interns are Katie McCabe and birthday girl, Adina Velasquez. Adina, happy birthday. We hope you have great plans this weekend.
Happy birthday, Adina.
She happens to be joined by her parents here at the library today, so hello to them as well. I'm Jared Bowen. Thank you all for coming down here to be with us at the library today. We love seeing you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Goodbye.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.